This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
The time being 4:47 p.m., I'd like to call the meeting of August 18th, 2022 to order. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next order of business will be to review and approve the minutes from 7:21 and 8:4.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we put these to the end of the meeting, as I have a couple of corrections on both of them, and they take up a few minutes of our time.
Everyone okay with that? Okay, so we will table this toward the end of the meeting. Review the minutes. The next order of business will be discussion of the cemetery on Laconia Road. So, Jeannie, was Jesse going to be able to join us virtually or not?
He is not, and I talked to him, so Jesse, our prosecutor, was going to be here tonight. He had childcare issues, couldn't be with us. He said if he wanted, he could be available by phone, but he couldn't guarantee that you wouldn't hear a child screaming in the background. And he did say that he thought that it would be premature for him to comment on anything until the investigation was done, which is being done by Officer Cat right now.
Okay. So I guess I will begin in this section. The board received via the town administrator an email from Mr. Tony Belanger. I'm going to read the contents of the email so that we have some background. Again, this was sent to Town Administrator Forrester. Dear Jeannie, I am the owner of 4 units and also the association president at WCLC number 1, 788 Laconia Road, Tilton. We were formed in 2004 and are legally related to WCLC number 2, 785 Laconia Road, Tilton. Over the past 17 years, I have personally managed 785 Laconia Road for all the past owners until 2020, when the current owner purchased the property. During the time I managed the units, I was also active in providing landscaping and general maintenance for the property. As a result, I am very familiar with the history and events associated with the cemetery behind the units. Up until about 2009, the cemetery was in reasonably good condition for its age. The plot was approximately 2 to 4 feet setback from the houses. The fence surrounding the plot was made up of a white picket fence on the street side and several cement-based black poles along the other 3 sides. I assume there was a chain connecting these posts in the past, but not during the time I was at this location. The interior was mostly grass, pine needles, and light weeds. Also in the cemetery area, there were 3 standing headstones, 4 to 6 small footstones, and possibly 1 fallen headstone. There was also 2 large trees connected at their base that leaned in the opposite directions. One leaned north toward Unit 1, and the other leaned south toward the Walker residence. It was around 2009 when the condition of the cemetery started to deteriorate with the south-leaning tree. During a storm, it was hit by lightning and fell into Jim Walker's backyard. At that time, 1 or 2 of the stones was knocked over, but not destroyed. In talking with Jim Walker, he told me that he had approached the town to discuss who was responsible for the cemetery and was told it was the town's. I believe, but I am not sure, that Al LaPlante was the person he spoke with. Jim told me that he asked permission to remove the tree at Jim's expense, and it was granted. During the process of removing the tree, Jim had to move the fallen headstones and 1 or 2 others to avoid damage from the tree removal process. At the time, Jim had made some plywood covers for the headstones for protection and leaned them up against his fence. After the tree was removed, He asked me to put one of the headstones back in place, as I was familiar with where it was prior to removal. The remaining stones were left under their protective wood covers against Jim's fence. Before Jim could return the remaining headstones to their locations, an outbreak of Japanese bamboo overtook the cemetery and most of the area along the back of Unit 2 and along the waterfront by the docks at Unit 2. Over the next 2 or 3 years, Jim worked many days removing the plants from the cemetery area and laid down thick rubber membrane in an attempt to eradicate the plants from that area. It was working fairly well, and I believe Jim was planning on grassing over the membrane area and returning the headstones back to their original locations, but fell ill and passed before he could finish. Since his death, I had cleaned the brush and remaining bamboo once a year in the spring, but was not able to put the stones in place as I was not certain of the exact spots. In the time the new owner, Mr. Overkoff, has owned the property, not much has changed in the condition of the cemetery other than a noticeable return of the bamboo in the spring and summer. Over the past winter, Mr. Overkoff tore down the 2 cottages and rebuilt. During the process, I was aware that someone placed a portable toilet on or near the southwest corner of the cemetery, but it was subsequently relocated in a short period of time. Other than that issue, I can say with confidence that the area is about the same overall condition as before Mr. Overkoff purchased the property. If I can be of any further assistance, please feel free to contact me at any hour. Sincerely, Tony Belanger.
I'm not sure what your point was to reading this. We're not looking at the history of what has taken place over the last 20 years. We're really focusing in really on the last few years of what's taken place on the history of the cemetery. There was a variance that was applied for by the new owners to build structures near the cemeteries. The new owners were approached not too long after that about a footstone that was unearthed. Also, construction debris in the cemetery, which has nothing to do with what Tony Belanger is writing about. There was a considerable amount of construction debris within the cemetery. They were approached to remove this construction debris, and they built a temporary fence, if you would. I use that word temporary, and I use the word fence very liberal because it really wasn't a fence. They did in fact clean up the construction debris. However, at that point in time, they were made aware that nothing should be in the cemetery at all. Nothing. So the membrane that what's important here with Tony Belanger is the membrane that Jim Walker put down years ago is actually within 4 inches of the building. That's what he speaks about, that was placed years ago. That membrane served as the boundary of the cemetery. That was dug up along with the footstone that was dug up. That was initially the trench to put in the foundation of this house. We came to the Board of Selectmen months ago trying to tell the Board of Selectmen or alert the Board of Selectmen that there were utilities and piping coming out of the side of the building of that same structure that at some point in time, gas, utility, electric, or something was going to be tied to this that was coming out of the building at least 18 to 24 inches. There wasn't 18 or 24 inches coming out of the side. There wasn't that much room. There was only 3 or 4 inches and you were onto the cemetery. So no matter what hooked up to that structure, no matter what hooked up to those pipings, they were going to be on the cemetery. And that was months ago. And now we come into a situation where the footstone was buried. We don't know how this footstone was buried, where it was buried, if it were buried. We do know that the ditch was leveled off. There's a cement pad there. There's an air conditioning compressor, and there were two generators, very, very large generators, sitting on the cemetery. Now, how did we come to that when in fact, months before that, we had approached the owner and asked them to clean up the debris, the construction debris, and yet somehow felt that it was okay to put generators on a cemetery. So I'm not sure why, once again, we're going back to reading Tony Belanger's history of this cemetery.
Mr. Stanley.
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Belanger's note. It actually provides additional information. He refers to 4 to 6 other stones that were there prior to all of this, and we didn't see them there. So somehow those stones are now missing. The other thing that he refers to is the bamboo and overgrowth. And you can go and you can see in all the pictures that were taken as well as on the tax cards. And you can see all these many pictures that we've presented that show the wood chips and the pine needles that were in there. So it looks like it did get under control. We also see sand that was thrown on top and digging, and you can see where that rubber underlayment was actually cut with a knife around these rocks. It was only a foot away from the building. Mr. Belanger also stated that the house was 2 to 4 feet away from the cemetery, and at the ZBA meeting, the developer stated that he would not infringe on the cemetery. And at this point, you can see the pictures of the cemetery and the foundation are encroaching on it. The other thing he refers to is the pipes and the fence and the markers. And in the photographs, it shows many of these markers. These are available anyone wants to look at. Cut off, and some of them with fresh saw marks. So I think we've definitely established that the cemetery was infringed on. We have missing stones. We have stones that were pulled up. I think there was another letter that came into the Board of Selectmen regarding a white picket fence that was missing since 1980. You saw that, right?
I sent it. Yeah.
You sent that letter. Do you have, anybody have a copy of that?
I sure do.
Read it?
Yes. So this was sent because there was a phone call received from Mr. Roland Philbrick regarding the cemetery. The account of the phone call is Mr. Philbrick advised that there used to be a white picket fence around the cemetery, but it was cut down, he says, back in the 1980s timeframe. He said Jim Dodge, a selectman at the time, went to Governor Merrill to get assistance, but was unsuccessful.
Okay, so it says back in 1980. So let's jump ahead a little bit. Google Maps, Street View. You can go and look on Street View, and you can still see that white picket fence is there. Street View didn't start till 2007, which would be over 30 years after he said the fence had disappeared. So it's still there. So I've got pictures. Our tax maps show the fence in there. They show the graveyard. They don't show any bamboo growing or anything like that on our pictures on our tax maps. This Google Street Views don't show it all overgrown. They actually show it in pretty nice condition, and they show the posts. Along with that, the map that was created for the developer and submitted to the ZBA and also given to all of the selectmen board when we discussed this, So, there's two of them. There's an enlarged version, but clearly this was surveyed. And this is in February of 2022. There's another one that's back in June. It shows that when they did the surveying, it actually showed all the markers on there. And they show, and this was presented to the ZBA, they also show a tree that says to be removed. So the tree was there, or at least one of them. It also shows, and it says, setback to cemetery per RSA 285, 285, I have so much stuff. Excuse me for being a little bit organizational challenged tonight. I think we have that map. Let's present, here it is. Anybody's eyes are better than mine. You can read what that says right there.
What am I reading? This here?
Yeah,
25-foot setback, RSA 289:3,
Like-
3, like I
yeah, I.
or LLL, I don't know.
Yeah. So, and that was presented to the zoning board as a plan for the development of this property. However, obviously, somebody knew it was there, somebody knew there was a setback, somebody has a drawing showing all of those posts and markers that we have pictures of at this time lying on the ground and cut off, so porta potties and gas pipes and other things. We have missing gravestones now, and we really need to have this restored properly by professionals and respectfully for the people who died there or are buried there. And I think we need to seek professional help with it, follow all laws and regulations that should be done. And you can see here it says was prepared for.
Well, no, but it's as of
Yeah,
June
and that-
21st,
Yeah.
June 12th, 2021.
And then next one.
So it's almost as is and with a proposed.
Yeah. And you can see the date on this one. Oh, man, this is June 12th, 2021. This is another one that
That's the
shows the
same-
grade there.
That's the same one we just passed.
So the one that shows that was marked up with the generators that was given to us as a later date. So,
Yeah, that has a later date on it, John.
yeah, and that shows the generators on it.
Yeah.
And you can clearly see that they're in the boundaries of that. And on top of that, if they were to move them, they'd still be new construction, and they would have to have been placed outside the 25-foot buffer because it's new construction. It wasn't even on the same footprint. It wasn't presented to the ZBA or planning board as that they were going to be within that 20-foot buffer or anything was being installed. So,
Is that the same?
John, is that the same map?
That's this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
June. That's June 12th, 2020.
Okay, so this would be.
My eyes might help.
Oh, yeah. So it's this-
It says
Okay,
generator.
and that was changed.
This is. You pull these up.
These are the ones I got.
February 3rd, maybe,
Yeah,
2022,
that's what I got.
and it shows generator locations. That shows generation,
Yep.
generator location there, and that's the date of it.
The pictures show them in the cemetery. Photographs show you. And actually, you can see from this picture the fencing on here, here's the air conditioner that's infringing on, but they actually moved the walls in these markers to about 6 feet further away from the house. So it shrank, it kept shrinking the cemetery. And there's the generators on the cemetery. You can see how it shrunk all of a sudden, and that's well within the boundaries of the plan. Is that it's the fence there, and there's a cemetery, and that's about where they are.
Confused. I'm confused because if I look at this picture, I'm seeing 2 generators. According to this plan of February 3rd, the upper one would be near the cemetery, and then the other one, it would be, I don't know if that's a deck or some type of extension of the house, the entrance of the house, like a little mudroom or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little step.
I don't know what it is. I mean, but it says there, but I don't see it in this picture.
Yeah. Because that, if you look at the picture, generator in that picture
Well, I
is
mean-
actually right there and right there. That's where they're in the picture.
Well, you're showing it against the fence. I don't,
And I think
I don't,
That's the house.
well, that's the house next door.
Yeah, so this would be the south fence. This is the closer section.
and so the actual house is about where the bottom of that picture is. But I know present with us tonight, we have 4 eyewitnesses present here that I can see in this room. I think there are others too, that saw what happened at the cemetery and saw these graves pulled up, saw these stakes cut off, removed, and the cemetery infringed on. So I'm not sure how letters of previous conditions of the cemetery weigh in over what actually happened. That's all. You'll see the zoning maps too, it shows fencing and trees.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pyra.
Jeannie, maybe I'm hallucinating, I don't know. You've met with Mr. Obakov? He's come in and he said that he's willing to work with the town.
Yes.
So let's work with him. He's willing to work with us. Let's work on a resolution that satisfies all. He sounds like he's, I don't know who he is.
He's actually here.
Oh, he
He
is.
would like to speak with you.
Sure.
Mr. Overclock is right
Oh, thank you for joining us.
here.
Thank
What
you.
will allow him, I think.
Well, I just wanted to say,
Eric is
We'll let,
I
we'll let
Yeah.
Mr. Pyra finish.
I'm just collecting my thoughts, but he's gone to the town administrator and said he wants to work with us. Let's work with him. That's the only way this is going to get resolved. You opened this meeting by stating that there was an investigation going. So I'm just going to ask the question, are we wrong for commenting on an open investigation by the Tilton Police Department?
Well, as I said, in talking to the attorney prosecutor, he said it's premature to be having these discussions until an investigation is complete.
Okay. I just want to say, let's work with them. That's all.
I don't have any particular comment pending the investigation, but I do want to see the cemetery restored properly. That's all.
I agree with what Mr. Jessamine said. As a steward of history, I would like to see the cemetery restored. To respond to the commentary and the comments and the questioning of me reading Mr. Belanger's email, I think that the public deserves some context as well to understand that this, even as it was portrayed in the newspapers, that there was this was obviously not in a, or I will change my wording. It was obviously in a state of disrepair prior to the current owner taking it over. That is not saying that it should not be put back to where it should be to honor those who are there. I would like, and I think it should absolutely be remedied and corrected as well.
Mr. Chair,
Selectman Constantine.
I vehemently disagree with you that it was in disrepair.
So are you calling Mr. Belanger a liar?
I'm not calling anybody a liar. What I'm saying to you right now, it's taken us at least since April trying to get to this far to even have an open conversation. And now that we have the press and people and the state and everybody else here, you want to work with this person to get this brought back for historical reasons. And so now this was not too far in the past been a pristine condition. And we have folks that have been in this cemetery. We have folks that have walked through this cemetery prior to these owners owning this cemetery, that it has not been in total disrepair. We have those people that have walked these cemeteries. So having this condition only been, as you say, prior to the owners owning it, there's even a tree that was removed recently under this ownership. So what I'm saying is know all the facts first before dismissing our facts. Know all of the facts.
Selectman Constantino, are you stating that along the way I have not wanted to see this cemetery reinstated to its glory? I'm asking you a question. It's a yes or no answer.
It's not a yes or no answer. I would suggest that you go back on the videos. It just like the press went back on the videos. We did not give the press the answers. That the press went back on the videos and got the answers to the questions he was asking. So, yes.
Direct quote from the Laconia Daily Sun, Friday, August 12th, 2022, words from my mouth. Instead, we can actually work with the landowner in town and have him restore it. You need to be very careful who you accuse of not wanting to do the right thing. I have wanted to do the right thing all the way along. There's a difference between prosecution and restoration.
Excuse me?
Mr. Scanlon.
In April, I brought this up, and I demanded that we have an emergency meeting to discuss this. Every selectman here, except for Selectman Constantino, denied that. Absolutely vehemently denied it and said it was too much of a cost, it would be a hardship, and that would, and you can listen to the videos. So that, I don't say that you were supporting it in any way up until it became public. So let's make that perfectly clear.
That is completely untrue, because
Okay.
that request that you made, and that was made back then, was for the town to take over.
No, sir.
Yes, it was cemetery. Yes, it was.
Well, the public can look at the.
We have stated
It
right
sure
from the
can.
beginning that we didn't want to take over the cemetery.
That's not
But
the
we
case in
want
the
it to
first
be
meetings. It
credit-
was.
No, it wasn't.
It was. So,
We agreed to disagree on that one as well. And agreeing to disagreeing is getting us nowhere.
I was gonna ask the board, are we okay with opening it to public comment?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, just a reminder for those, public comment, we'll ask you to come to the table. Or you can take the microphone if you see fit. Please state your name, where you live, where you're from. And in accordance with the policies and procedures, you have 3 minutes to come. So, Mr. O'Leary.
Good afternoon. My name's Stephen O'Leary. I live in Tilton on School Street. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I live on School Street in Tilton. The only thing I'm here and I'm concerned about, because you're talking about working with these folks, has the next of kin been notified of those people? They're the ones that are supposed to make a final decision. I know we went through the same thing when the Veterans Cemetery came up here and wanted to move all the veterans' graves that are in our cemetery down to Bosquen. And we found out you have to have any type of work done in that cemetery has to be notified to the next of kin, so they can get permission. If you don't get notification from the next of kin, you cannot touch that cemetery. I don't care how much construction has gone in, it's got to go back to the original. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
So I don't know if you guys will actually want me to speak. My name is Sharon Champion. I'm not a resident of the town of Tilton. I am a resident of the town of Belmont. I am here as someone who loves history, loves cemeteries, loves our veterans. That being said, in full, I am also a cemetery trustee in the town of Belmont. I have been on that board since 2009. I'm also on the ZBA in the town of Belmont. I have a membership of the New Hampshire Old Graveyard Association, and I have a membership to the New Hampshire Cemetery Association as well. I'm just members. That being said, I have some working knowledge of the cemeteries, the state laws, some of the problems that are going on. It's not just you guys, it's happening everywhere and becoming more and more frequent. And we would like to find ways to work to get some of these things corrected, get public knowledge out there. So I'm telling you my background simply so that you'll know that I'm just not somebody walking in here who wants to just, that being said, I would like to give the board my name and my email and my phone number so that I can help out in any aspect and getting this resolved, restored, whether you go through the prosecution route or whether you just work with the owner to get the restoration project going.
Thank you.
Okay.
There's a picture in 2015. From Google. They have 2016, 15, 13, and 8, but 8 is indecipherable.
Anyone else?
2008.
Mr. Robicoff?
Please. 2013. 2015.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm an owner of property, and I'd like to address a couple of issues. One is of my concern, but now one is of your concern. Right?
Mr. Obukoff, could you pull the microphone?
Thank you.
Like that?
Perfect.
Okay. Which one would you like me to start with? Your concern or my concern?
Your concern.
Your concerns.
My concern. Okay. My concern is very simple. I bought this property in year 2020. In 2021, I hired a contractor who in turn hired the engineer who prepared the pre-development plan and presented it to the zoning board of adjustment in Department of Environmental Services and everywhere, right? Now, in January, building process started, right? I visited maybe site, maybe once in a month and a half, right? In March, Liam Monihan called me and said the board expressly asking me if I have any interest to discuss to deed the property to the town. Are you open to thinking about it? I said, I'm absolutely open. Give me the detail of a deal. I don't mind. If you say I cut this parcel, say it's town property, and you just decrease a little bit of my taxes, I have no way to, I mean, no reason to keep it, right? Now, that was the first contact with me from a town. Second contact was the contractor called me and said, we have to remove a generator, it will be extra expensive. Because town said that the generator is only a land of the cemetery. I said, okay, remove it. That's number two contact. All the rest, my contact with the town was I went to the building department and talked to either Charlie or Liam when I had any questions, right? Now, here's to my concern. You have at least 7 meetings discussing this issue, maybe 8, because meeting of August 4th comes with no minutes on your site and no sound and video. I watched mostly all of them in the part which is related to this issue, and here's my concern. This is an article published in this paper, right? To start with it's full of lies, Start with the title. Tilton condo owner agrees to cease cemetery disturbance. If I agree to cease cemetery disturbance, it's implied I disturbed it before. I cannot cease what I never did before, right? That's the first one. Second one, this article directly accused me of committing a felony. It says, according to the select board, Alex has enriched the cemetery boundary, removed tombstones, grave markers, installed generators and compressor were conditioned, dug a gas line through the cemetery. Okay? My understanding that this statement comes from you, Mr. Scanlon. So for you, first I printed the very simple explanation of New Hampshire defamation law. I also thought that it might be useful for you too. And I'm not sure about you, but I'll give it to you too. All right. I have highlighted on the second page the part which says typically the defamation case is difficult to litigate because plaintiff has to prove the monetary damages caused by defamation. Unfortunately, in New Hampshire is not the case. In New Hampshire, I don't have to prove as long as I'm accused of committing a felony. So that's not the case. I would be here already with my attorney. Unfortunately, he's on vacation until beginning of September, and then he has a 6-day trial. As soon as he comes, you will hear from them, and possibly, it's depending on what he says. That's what my concern. Now, how about your concern? One of the accusation is I dug a trench through the cemetery. Okay. Now here is in the presentation to the zoning board of adjustment and into the DES presentation, there was 2 plans: existing structures, proposed structures. I took the existing structures and proposed structures blueprints over, align them perfectly by the dots on a fence, and put light here and delineate all the new structures. I couldn't have a color copy, so I would ask you to pass it around. Red delineation is a new structure. Green delineation is the old structure. And yellow line is a trench where a gas line was installed.
The yellow line is where the
Gas
gas line
line,
is
that's correct.
installed.
It's a gas line coming from our side of the street, from under the road, under the ground, and it's come to gas generator and gas meter for the house, right? This, as a matter of fact, this gas line, not only it's not in a cemetery or even close to that, it is under the former existing building, way under. Now, from the existing, from a cemetery border is delineated, I will talk about that a second later. It's here, I would say, 7 feet maybe from a border on an approved development plan, on border of the cemetery, right? Now, what's worth also to talk about that is you all saw these markers around the cemetery, right? The engineer who did the development plan, he said that nowhere in official tax map there is a properly delineated border of cemeteries. Because it's just hand-drawn rectangular with no markers on it, no distance from houses or from a border of property, no size of it. It's just, you can see, I could print them enough, you can see it's a handwritten, hand-drawn delineation. Now, so where did we get these markers from a cemetery? And where did we get this border? Cemetery. We get them from an engineer who, after the when time of compounding, who went to a property and put up the markings where he wanted to be not disturbed. And he told me at the time that I put the markers with big margin for what we see now, right? Now, these markers serve not as a proper, as the cemetery border, rather than the sign for workers who will be working on the property, not to walk over, right? Now, going a little bit back to my concern, Mr. Scanlon, you accuse me of committing felony. Have you seen me committing this felony? Have you seen me committing this felony you accuse me of?
I stated that there was a violation of
Nope.
RSA
Nope.
635-6.
Nope. According to the select board, Alex, who wants to replace blah, 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 has enroached cemetery borders, removed tombstone, grave markers, installed generators, compressor. Have you seen me doing that?
I never said that.
Why do you accuse me of that?
I-
Why did you accuse me of that?
First, you look at the videos of the meeting, and you can see.
I looked at the videos.
And
I
that's
looked
what
at it.
investigation will determine.
Hmm?
That's what investigation will determine.
Yeah, but
It's what
after the
happened.
investigation determined, can you still, and determined I commit these felonies, right? Can you still accuse me of that until the court decides that I'm guilty of felony, committing felony? No, it's nothing funny about that. I don't know. I don't understand why you think it's a laughing matter. It's not a laughing matter for me, and believe me, it will not be a laughing matter for you.
Mr. Rubikoff, I ask
Sure.
you to
Sorry.
take a deep breath and calm down for a second, please. What I would like to do is I would actually like to step in for 1 second. I believe, Mr. Caldwell, you are here from the paper. So at this time, there is
You will see us too.
there is an issue that has been brought up in terms of the newspaper article. The photos that you used said that they were given by the town of Tilton. Okay? So that is not the case, and I will cite. Okay, so Mr. Rubikoff, that you know this, the town of Tilton meeting procedures and standards of conduct. Okay, section 6.2.10. When giving a written or oral public opinion concerning issues facing or involving the town, all members shall refrain from making statements on behalf of the town or the body upon which he or she serves, unless such person has explicitly been authorized by the respective body. When acting as, or perceived as acting as, a representative of the official body, he or she represents an individual must always uphold the approved board point of view. Mr. Caldwell, my point is that we need to retract the town of Tilton from that, please, because those were not given or approved to be given by the town of Tilton. Thank you.
My
So just,
understanding was they were public documents at that point. They've been submitted to the board, and so that was, I took that to mean.
okay,
Yes.
understandable.
All those photographs were presented and distributed at the meeting, and copies of them to each selectman.
Did we approve that they be released to the press?
They were public. I did not release that. It's public information.
So,
And all this information was on the meetings from your statements.
so did you pull those from our public records? The pictures?
No.
Okay, thank you.
They were submitted, so they were public.
Thank you. Mr. Rubikoff.
Okay, so returning back to your concern, generator which you mentioned right now is supposedly sitting on a grave territory. This hump on the existing structure thing, that's a place where was the water heater and the additional gas tank. There was 2 propane tanks, right? Right now, that's where the generator is. Where they used to be this, it was house sitting, right? That's another thing. And about the stones. The moment I bought the property, I acquainted to Tony Bellinger, who wrote a letter. It's not inspired by me. I was surprised by this letter. And he brought me to the cemetery and showed me this is a standing stone. I have a picture of that down by that time. Right here, I can pass it. Whole overgrown. And behind there's a 2 laying down stones. Let's see. Big stone was in front of it, which is still in front of tree now. It's a stump, and 2 stones were laying down. Right. I assume that somebody from employees of a contractor just put them like lean them on the stump. I didn't do it. Tony at the time told me also that there was a small stone there, but I didn't want to be there, even honestly, even close to be there. And I didn't touch it. I just looked at it. I realized that 2 stones on the back, a laying and 1 standing. Since then, what's happened? They just, as you can see on the list I gave you, the house was 21.7 feet from a fence, old house. New house is 28.7 feet from a fence. So 8 feet this house moved. Yes, this house moved about the half a feet away from a shoreline and closer, but it's still not touching. And now I'm returning to the most important part. These markers, it's not official those, official delineation of the cemetery territory. Very well might be that the graves were here. I don't know. Maybe we are in front of a tree, maybe in the back of a tree. From what I've heard from a letter from Tony, we were moved around. obviously, right? And they were then stand right back by somebody. I didn't put this straight up. I didn't tilt these stones on the fence. So this is just engineer doing this development plan, pointed where the marked by him the non-disturbed area. Is it including all the cemetery or only part of that? I don't know. He doesn't know, but to the best of his ability, he did from that unmarked, hand-drawn rectangular with not a single size of that. That's the only map is possible to find on the built number registry of deed, and it doesn't show any markers. That's it. It's moreover, it even shows the existing tree in the wrong place. It's on the fence. Actually, tree was in the center of the cemetery, and now it's stump and closer to the house. So this is absolutely not the way how you determine where cemetery boundary is. And even less of this is a marker engineer put not disturb area. It's not the official or legal delineation of cemetery border. But this is not my concern because I already have the occupancy permit. Honestly, you feel free to go see me, but I'm not. Well, I might consider public apology, record it on the camera, and post it on your website as every hour meeting from you at least, and from you too. You know what for? You said, let's bring him to a county jail where you'll bail, release him on bail and assign him a court date. Is it the idea of American law how it works?
I've never said anything about you.
Okay.
I don't know anything about you.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, maybe
I
I'm
will
wrong.
say
Do you
that
have the
for
Harley
sure.
Davidson? No. Okay, so
No.
it's a different person. Sorry about that.
I'm
Sorry.
unsure what you're referring to. But
Sorry
it
about
wasn't
that.
me.
I was wrong, but picture quality on your video is not really good, so I couldn't be sure, especially with the mask. I don't know. So sorry about that. But also, one of the note, the third time I contacted by the town in a whole year, third time I received this letter with the photocopy of criminal code, which is obviously was like a leaflet, was like it was carried in the pocket of some person for a week or something. You can see it, which says basically felony, and says notify your capacity owner of property located the cemetery must remain undisturbed. And notice it's called cease and desist. I thought maybe I don't understand something, so I went to the town hall and asked Leanne. Leanne brought Jeannie, and I asked, I would like you to clarify for me, what exactly should I cease and desist? What? I didn't do anything on this cemetery. If employees, for some reason, we moved porta potty somewhere, it was not under my control, right? And when somebody told them to remove, they removed immediately, right? So what I personally should cease and desist. And all I get from else is, don't disturb a cemetery anymore. I said, I didn't disturb, and I'm not planning to disturb. Moreover, I volunteered. If board wants to, I can put the fence around the high fence with the one door and for my phone number in the lock. So if town want to send somebody to take care of it, be my guest. If ancestors want to visit their cemetery, be my guest. Just call me and I'll open the door. I'll come and open the door. I was also told, don't do anything until this meeting. And I decided I have to attend this meeting and make things clear about the slander, libel, and defamation, specifically to you, Mr. Scanlon. We will be meeting you.
Yes.
Sure.
Selectmen consultation.
Mr. Overcheck, did you remove a tree from the time that you owned the property?
No, I did not. That removed the crew, which removed the tree, which was part of a plan. If you look at the zoning board of adjustment, it says tree to be removed on the printout.
So you did remove it?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I was surprised when I saw you saying it was removed by Mr. Walker. Most likely, Mr. Walker
No,
removed a tree
Mr.
which was on the fence.
So Mr. Walker removed the large tree, but there was another smaller tree that,
No, it's like that right now. Most likely Mr. Walker removed the tree which was on the fence, which is shown on this map. Most likely he removed this tree.
so you removed the larger tree.
Yes, because it was 45 degree over my cottage, 45 degree. It was a dead tree, and any strong wind, it will crash through the roof.
Do you remember when you removed that?
I didn't remove it. That's the contractor. You can call him. I can give you his phone number. You can call him and ask him. I didn't control things like that. He has a plan to do, by the way, which is developed by his engineer, and he's implementing it. Very rarely I just drove by and look at it. Yeah, it looks nice.
But
It's going
hiring
on.
a contractor is the same as taking ownership of doing
You
something
asked me
on
a
your
question if
property.
I removed it. I didn't remove it. My contractor removed according to a plan approved by New Hampshire DES and Town of Tilton, Building Department and Zoning Board of Adjustment. Yes, I did. If in that sense, I did. Any questions? Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Ms. Dawson.
Good evening.
Catherine?
So I'm Catherine Dawson, resident of the town of Tilton, and I currently serve as the health officer for the town of Tilton. I guess I was the first official there. I received a phone call. There was at least 2, if not 3 people on that phone call, very upset, thinking that graves had actually been dug up and bodies removed from the cemetery. I went there thinking it was just going to be verification that nobody in today's world would dig up a grave in a cemetery. And when I got there and saw the destruction, I immediately called for policemen and selectmen and waited until they got there. I didn't have to because as health officer, I had every right, but I just wanted more eyes on what I had seen. And let me back up, Mr. Walker. I was very well acquainted with him, and he would come into town hall in past years, and we'd have many conversations. And one of the ones he would always bring up is, would the town please take over care and maintenance of that cemetery? I, in fact, met him there probably 4 or 5 years ago as we looked at the cemetery, and it was neat. It was an older cemetery, but it was neat and cared for. What I saw that day in April, I was quite shocked. There was a porta potty parked there that was so close to the cemetery. The only way to get in and out of it was through the cemetery. There was a trench dug on the lakeside, as John has a picture of it, I believe, that shows that the barrier that Mr. Walker installed it cut through. I know because I tripped in it, and I was very surprised when I saw that trench. I mean, it was in the cemetery, if you will. It was right on the edge of the cemetery. There was construction debris all over the cemetery. There was no protective fence. I saw the boundary markers that had been cut off. I was quite surprised. But none of that was within my jurisdiction to have any enforcement. I'm just telling you what I saw. But I do have a question that's been bothering me since then. I don't know if it's how, but maybe why would the town of Tilton give a variance to a non-conforming lot with 2 buildings on it that allowed them, the builder or property owner, to put those buildings more within the protective boundary of that cemetery? That baffles me. You typically, in the past,
non-conforming lot, non-conforming buildings on it are not allowed to leave their footprints. Those definitely left their footprints. And I know that for a fact because Dawson's Concrete did the foundation work. So there's a question for you. And I ask that because I hope to God it never takes place again. Because here we are. The other question I have for you, does this Board of Selectmen, and maybe you haven't made that decision, it's unfair for me to ask, do you have any intention of adding that cemetery to the list of the ones that the town already maintains? Pardon?
It's already on the list.
Well, I know it's on a list in the town of Samerton history. It's listed as a town cemetery, but that's the town of Samerton.
The town clerk tax collector provided the board with a document that was found in the files that shows the town maintains it. Is that correct?
I'm incorrect because I did more research for this. That is the Reuben Philbrick Cemetery. I went with Dave Wadley and marked every graveyard. I was unaware of that one. That's the Benjamin Philbrick Cemetery. So no, the town does not own it. That's a private one, but
That's what I thought.
Well,
I'm sure there are
this is
deeds or
news to
whatever
me.
that says it.
Any intention? Any plans? Any discussion?
It was discussed at one time and they didn't really followed up on it. But it's a good suggestion. It just hasn't been followed up on because we were so in the throes of trying to get the other resolutions done.
My understanding is that the owner of the property has cleaned the cemetery up, which is excellent. But if you drive by now, it's just full of suckers from the trees that were cut down. It's a mess. But that's nature. That's not human.
Right.
That's nature. So I wouldn't suggest that might be a very good idea for us to take that over. That is our history.
I think it goes back to 2010 because I discovered, I went to meetings when you were on the board, and you were asking because there had been a tree that had fallen. And then there was the discussion of had the town ever maintained it, and to no one's knowledge they had.
They had
So
not, yeah.
It's been
That was
it's been a
Mr.
while.
Walker.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
To Mr. Chair.
Yes, Selectman Constantine.
So to Catherine's question, there is a letter from John Lord. Yeah. In the gist of the letter, he does express concern regarding the Philbrick graveyard and what he calls desecration. And his mission is the preservation of the old graveyards. He is a member of the treasurer of New Hampshire Old Graveyard Association, not associated with the state, but the New Hampshire Old Graveyard Association. But in the bottom of the letter, he said, finally, we offer our assistance in the preservation of this graveyard. If you would like, we are somewhat limited in funds, but have a great deal of expertise in cleaning, resetting, and repairing graveyard monuments, all according to national standards. We do not have heavy equipment for large monuments if that's what was needed. But New Hampshire Old Graveyard Association is putting it out there saying that we can help in any way to restore if need be.
Just so everyone knows, Mr. Lord was kind enough to send that email today to all of us. So, and again, he's the treasurer of the New Hampshire Old Graveyard Association.
Can we read that into the record just for the
Do
record?
you want me to read the entire letter?
I would like it just because we've read other letters in, so let's
Okay.
read it in.
To the Tilton Select Board from the New Hampshire Old Graveyard Association, subject is Philbrick Graveyard, date August 18th, 2022. I write to express the concerns of the New Hampshire Old Graveyard Association regarding the desecration that has taken place in the Filbert Graveyard. Our mission is the preservation of these old graveyards. So to see the damage inflicted on this graveyard is deeply disturbing. We are sure you feel the same. Not only does it appear that there has been a total disregard for state law, but also great disrespect has been shown for those interred and their descendants. We are confident you will have a thorough investigation into what happened, and if appropriate, charges should be filed for this egregious behavior. It is difficult to believe that this was accidental. Surely it was known that there was a cemetery there and headstones were clearly visible. We hope that any resolution to this situation requires that the graveyard be put back in some semblance of order, and if the original building was already closer than 25 feet to the cemetery, it shouldn't have been expanded even an inch in the direction of the graveyard. Thus, any construction beyond the previous footprint should be removed. Finally, we offer our assistance in the preservation of this graveyard if you would like. We are somewhat limited in funds, but have a great deal of expertise in cleaning, resetting, and repairing graveyard monuments, all according to national standards. We do not have heavy equipment for large monuments if that were needed. Respectfully submitted, John Lord, Treasurer, NHOGA.
Thank you. I've, can I?
Yeah, Mr. Pyre.
I have a question, and I don't know if I misunderstood you or misheard you. There was a drawing that you had that showed the old footprint and the new print. Well,
it should be
it
passed
was,
around.
I remember seeing a red and a,
Yeah,
and
let's
a red
find
box.
this because I need this.
And,
I give
and you had made,
It's okay.
Let's see, with red and green,
Yeah, I think, because I think with that was
I might have put them all.
because it shows the yellow line, gas line, and it shows
Oh,
the
I
distance.
think I might have put this.
Yeah, that's, it's my copy, sorry. You can make this yourself. So difficult. Yeah, that's okay. Okay. So what's your question about that?
you kind of, I'm sorry, I'm short arm, sorry.
Mhm.
Is the, on this, is the green,
Green is the old
old
structure, red is the new, it's
so you
moved.
had said that you had given measurements, specific measurements. That one was like maybe 20 feet and then
It's
now
right
there's
on the
20.
paper, it's a blue line, shows 21.7 feet
Yeah,
from fence.
Yeah.
And then our blue line underneath is shows 28.7.
okay. So
First
you
one is
actually,
a two old building, new one is two new building. So it shows I moved the building away from the cemetery 7 feet.
Okay.
And in this 7 feet, by the way, is the gas line trench.
well, I'm 6 foot tall, so I can get a pretty good measurement of
Okay.
it. So, but the reason why I say that is in that letter that Chairman Ruggles just read, it gives an inclination that you moved closer. And I was just looking for clarification.
That's
that you
correct.
actually moved.
That's correct. The
Did you move the building closer or further away?
DES required a little bit closer move away. It's one of the improvement I have to show away from shoreline. So this house moved half a
So
feet.
this one.
So which is what, 6-7 inches?
So just for unit one, the one that was closer to, as we look at the map, unit one, the one that was.
Unit one
The one
was
that's closer to the lake,
moved half an inch closer to the cemetery. It's still not touched, even with big margin delineated by engineer.
But
area.
building 2 is actually further away.
7 feet away
I just
from
needed
original.
clarification
Uh,
for myself on that.
and that 7 feet is the place where I could put anywhere the gas line, and it's put right next to the trench, which has the crushed stone, which is water removal trench from roof. Right next to it goes a gas line. And let's say this line is 2 feet. Let's say we'll put this trench 3. So it's still 4 feet. Too delineated by engineer area. Who delineated? Well, I would guess he did at least couple of feet margin, because the old building is right on his delineation. If you can see it here, green one, this yellow tape, stakes with yellow tapes, was, I would say, here about a half a feet here, right? Now, the his hour marking was with red tape marking around the foundation hole. And I do have a picture of that right there. And
No,
this,
I was
as
just looking for.
somebody said here that was not a fence. No, yeah, it was not a fence, but I have a picture dated January 23rd, which clearly shows already dug the foundation and untouched area covered with snow, which is delineated by these stakes with the yellow tape, right? And it's not touched. This yellow tape around that was put there before the first dug started, before that. So saying that somebody just grabbed with the excavator and broke a stone, by the way, which was broken before I even bought the property, and I saw that. It's again not true, because the stones which were laying here, right behind this tree, right there, on the opposite side, right there, right? We were just on the ground, and there was no, by the way, small stones. Now, I don't know who even lift them up and put them against the stump. I didn't touch them. I didn't touch any stones. So.
Well, no, I was just looking for the physical building location, and you've clarified that for me, so thank you.
I got this delineation by just putting on the glass with the light on the side, aligning these dots of the fence perfectly, and just making the drawing where the new building is. And let's see, those two blueprints, big blueprints, was presented to the zoning board of adjustment before and after. So, because it should be calculated points for DES and how much you move out of shore, how much you move out of this against how much increase on the building footprint, which is a small increase, obviously. So, good.
Thank you. And your other document.
Boiling.
Because we are at the end of our time for this segment, I'll give one minute. If there's any other public comment, we'd like to entertain that now. So.
I just wanted to do a history lesson. So the state of New Hampshire, the setback around the cemeteries is 25 feet. I wasn't sure if anybody knew why that was. I don't know, for instance, exactly how old this cemetery is. I did read the article that said there was a Revolutionary War soldier buried there. So this could technically apply to the cemetery. In the 1700s and 1800s, there were what people accused of being witches, or there were slaves in the area, and they were not usually allowed to be inside the walls of the cemetery, so their owners or the people who, with people who were accused of being witches, buried the bodies on the outside of the cemetery walls. And this is why the state of New Hampshire law is 25 feet, the whole entire circumference of the cemetery. And it's ground disturbance. It's not just putting a building on it. It's digging a tree.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, that's interesting.
You're welcome.
Kim?
Kim Souls, I'm a resident of Tilton, and I'm glad we're having this public forum tonight. I have steered clear of it because the whole thing, as an individual, bothers me. I know, Joe, you and I have talked about it.
You're talking to the mic, Kim.
Am I not talking into the mic? Okay. It bothers me because, well, it doesn't matter why it bothers me. I'm here tonight to share two things. First of all, about 2 weeks ago, this whole thing hasn't rung true in one respect, and this is my mistake, because I haven't been totally involved, because it's not been up to us to be involved. I know I gave Jeannie, we have a town Sanperton record, and it has, I believe, 13 graveyards, and the bottom one is a Philbrook, and it says Jeremiah Philbrook. It's my understanding, we are talking Benjamin Philbrook. He is not on that list. 30 years ago, I was a member of the Association for Gravestone Studies and New Hampshire Graveyard Association. And one of the people told me that AGS was interested in what's above the ground, i.e. iconography on the stones. And Hampshire Graveyard Association is interested in what's below the stones, what's buried, the history. And so the best I can tell, this is a private cemetery. Dave Wadley took me out probably 30 years ago, and we marked every grave in town. I don't know, and he's gone, I don't know if we marked every public grave and not private, or if we marked just the ones that he knew of. I don't know. I didn't know the town cemeteries. So this is sort of a gray area, but this is very different. There are, I think, 4 different Philbrooks. We have Jeremiah Philbrook, which is the Anchorage, and I went with him to that one. This one, I believe, is Benjamin Philbrook, which is different. And if you look at the page on that, and this is from Reynolds, it's going to show Benjamin Philbrook, and I believe it shows, I think you're going to find there are going to be 2 gravestones on that, and then the rest that marks X's on the chart that the Sanborn person says, and those mark field stones. So my concern is, yes, everything, I want everything proper, but in all of this, we have to look for field stones. And those people may not recognize them, they may not be there, but there are more than 2 bodies there. And I don't know if the Hampshire Graveyard has something to locate bodies, that's, what's it called, the thing like a metal detector, but.
Ground penetrating.
Right, I don't know if they have that or not, but there's more than 2 bodies there. And I'm asking folks to keep that in mind with what you're doing, because it's sacred ground. It is sacred ground, and I don't care if it's the milkman buried there or a veteran or Native American, it is still sacred ground. If I had my way, our pets would be sacred ground, but we're not there. But these are human beings. And I can just see it so close, the Reuben Philbrook graveyard, and I can just see him looking down. I can visualize this and seeing his family there and his brother or whatever. I think they were brothers, Benjamin Philbrook there, and their family, and they had their houses and their kids growing up, and they're dead now, but they're still important. And I think it's an important part of us as a society to protect this. So again, I gave what information. I thought it was correct. There is in fact another graveyard. I'm assuming it's private, and it needs to go in the records now. And there are more bodies there than there are 2 stones. There's also field stones there. So in the math that you're doing, please keep that in mind.
Mr. Chairman, just a question.
Yeah.
So the document that you gave me, just because I want to make sure I heard you right, it says Tilton Cemetery is at the top.
Right.
And it says the Benjamin Philbrook Cemetery, town maintained. You're saying this is incorrect?
That is not Benjamin Philbrook. That is going to be Reuben Philbrook. That is an error. I think that's an error, because Benjamin Philbrook is a small one. And Reuben Philbrook, does it say Anchorage there, Jeannie?
Yes.
Okay, the Anchorage one is Reuben Philbrook, and that's where I was wrong. I didn't realize.
It says Laconia Road near Anchorage.
Exactly.
You didn't create that document.
That's from Sanborn. Someone in Sanborn, at turn of the, right around 2000, created that document. And that is an error. And, I saw Philbrook, and I said, oh, yeah, we're fine. No, when I went out with Dave Wadley, the Anchorage one is the one that I saw, is the one, if you look at Reynolds or in her guide, that's the one with multiple gravestones in it. It's not a small one.
Did you ever go to the one that we're talking in?
I've not been.
You've never been to
I've
that?
not been to
Okay.
Been to that one. I'd love to see it, because personal interest.
Well, maybe sometime Alec will invite you over.
Well, thank you, because I would like to see it. I have concerns about the field stones. There are
Yeah.
field stones here. I bet they're children. 5 to 7 is my guess from what I understand. But yeah, this is different from what Dave Wadley and I did, and it's different from what the person in Sanborn, I don't know who she is, but that is incorrect.
Mr. Stanley.
So I know we're pressed for time, but we've been kicking this off for quite a while. I I don't pronounce your name right. Obikoff. I think while he's here, that maybe possibly we could come to some type of way that we could all work together to restore this. We have a great following of people that actually letters from Mr. Lord that would be willing to assist in the restoral of that, and putting everything back and doing that. And I think the bottom line, that the timeline of when we first noticed it with the Board of Health until we got to this point was way too long, and you're only getting 3 notices in the last one. I don't know if there was a communication error or what, but the intention here from everybody is to protect the history of Samerton and Tilton. And I feel that you agree with that we could somehow come to some type of agreement how we're gonna do that and how we can just put it back and make it look nice. And perhaps, as you said, the town will take over ownership of it. I myself, I've cleaned stones in the other cemetery, statues, help preserve them. I go up there, volunteer, wax different monuments around town. There's a lot of people are willing to do that. One of the things that's important is that through the New Hampshire Graveyard Association and through the state, they have a process for doing these things. And way back in the beginning, in April, that's what I was asking for. That
Did you ask me?
I brought it to the Board of Selectmen asking how to proceed for it. And from there, you were notified the first time. You said you got a letter asking about how.
And I responded immediately. I said, yes, I'm open.
No, I mean about
No more contact with me.
yeah, about the damages that were done and that some stones have been overturned the first time you got
Never
that.
heard of it.
Nobody told you
Nobody
ever
ever told
about
me.
this?
Not a single person. And I'd like to make one thing clear. I'm all for restoration. I'm all for restoring to the good condition. It's my property, after all, right? But I will discuss it with you only after public apology. I will discuss with the board, not with you. It's Mr. Scanlon, you really, you accused me of committing felony with absolutely having no base for that, right? And you initiated an article or newspaper which printed your lies. So,
No, sir.
sorry, man. I'm going to talk to the board, to the people who are listening, not to you, unless and until you publicly apologize on the camera and publish it in the town website. Same as you published this Slider and libel. Same way. The same way should rectify the situation. And then I'll be talking. From now on, I'm stopped. Sorry.
I'd just like to make a public statement. That article, I did not go and solicit that article from the newspaper.
No, that
That
article
was-
just
that-
repeated
that was-
your words verbatim, because I've seen them on the video and I've heard them. That's enough for me. We'll just trust you mistaken. And didn't do the reporter's job to verify the fact. I didn't even take my side from the story. We just published this slander and libel.
I
But
think
my concern is that back when this was brought up in April, that nobody notified the issues that were going on to the property owner, that these graves were disturbed and that pipes were cut off and such. And that was never portrayed to him until, I don't know when he actually was told that what things were going on there and notified that there were damages and that there were violations of the RSAs.
Right,
And I'm not sure
until
when
it
that
hits the
happened.
paper and now you're the bad guy.
No, you're a bad guy when you spread the lies.
Okay.
This guy, you said literally, this guy committed a felony. In the context of discussing the property and property owner. Yes, you did mention my name. He said, this guy committed a felony and we should have to do something. Unless, or it makes something horrible happen. You know, what horrible happen? First when I heard that we will start talking about arson or something, I don't know what's horrible. Oh, horrible. Somebody will report it and we we will be looking like we are not taking care of somebody committing a felony, making, again, reference to me. And that's why our board member, Harvey Davis and whoever, court, said, no, we should send the cops, bring him in the county jail, bail him, release him on a bail with the assigned court date. That's what we did. So
Nobody ever
it's not
contacted
like,
you to tell you that
just
this was going on?
So
Nobody?
I'm done with you, sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to close public comment now.
There's
Yeah.
people online you can check.
So
I don't know if any of them.
I'm going to close public comment at this point in time. And I think Kim had brought up something that had been spinning in my head a little bit, and I wonder, and this is an overall thing in terms of sort of NHMA, whoever could handle it. I'm a lifetime New Englander, so I know these grave sites, et cetera, they're all over New England. I wonder if there could be a concerted effort coming out of this situation in our municipality where towns and other municipalities, when they know of these private graveyards and when property is turned over to a new owner, can alert the new owners in terms of those RSAs and what the requirements are and things like that. I was driving last week and I had driven by it, and I don't know why, it just spun into my head a little bit about how we can sort of or how municipalities in the future can look to inform new owners of property that have these graveyards on them, as sort of what the expectations are, what the state laws are, because I'm sure that it's probably not something that's common knowledge for people who take on property that have these on them. So, yes, Mr. Pyro.
Just based on what you just said, the associations, and I don't know the alphabet soup, so I'll just say the graveyard associations work with maybe like Lakes Region Board of Realtors to come up with a brochure that they give out and educate the realtors, because they're going to be touring these pieces of property with prospective buyers and letting them know that there's a grave site.
May I answer that quickly?
Kim, yeah, please, sure.
As I'm sitting listening to what everybody's saying, I'm thinking, as far as process is concerned, yes, we need to change going forward, but I don't do your job and I don't want to do your job. But whenever you have property and it's going to change or whatever, this had graveyard on a tax map. We knew it was there. I didn't know it was there, but people knew it was there. What stops us from going and looking first, making sure it's there, making sure we know what is and isn't there? Now, that doesn't replace New Hampshire Old Graveyard. When I went around with Dave Wadley 30-some years ago, the objective is they wanted to know where every graveyard was in every town in New Hampshire. The next step was knowing what was written on every stone so we could keep track of the people. I never got to that. I only got as far as these are the graveyards that Dave Wadley showed me. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. And you're probably right, there are graveyards that nobody knows about, family ones. I've heard of some in Samberton, and I wouldn't know where to tackle them even, but it's.
Yeah, I grew up in Western Massachusetts and they were all over.
The same thing, yeah. Right. And a lot of the family ones, the families have moved, so. But this one, when we have them on our records or whatever, that's the excellent opportunity to take that extra step. Easy for me to say. It's not me doing it. Anyhow, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Obikoff, please. Oh, wait, actually, Mr. Obikoff, I've closed public comment, so we're gonna leave it at that for now. We do need to move on in our agenda. I apologize.
Just brief for your information. On this plan, which is submitted to DES and the town, there is a marker, photo E, photo D, photo 2, photo F. These photos were taken before our work started. You can dig your archives or get it from DES, and you will see in this condition, please, that cemetery was at the time of work. That was done, and it was submitted to DES. I'm not sure if it's photo submitted to town, but it is there. And by the way, police officer called me yesterday asking about photo, and I said the sure place to get the photo is to go to the US. They're there. Search for 2 photo F, 1 photo E, and 1 photo D. They are there. And as many stones that you can see on the photo, that as many stones was there when I got the photo. To be exact, I saw 1 standing, 2. Sorry for that.
So, next, we're not gonna be able to do fireworks ordinance. 'Cause Jesse's not-
What Jesse, I don't know what happened,
Okay,
but what Jesse said was that whatever the board wants in the ordinance, he's looking for direction, and he's happy to put that together.
Okay.
So I don't know if
So-
you want to revisit this, when he's.
with him in the room, so. Well, next on the agenda, so everyone knows, was just discussion of the fireworks ordinance with our attorney prosecutor, but he's not here.
Do we have a copy?
So
Do we have a copy?
No.
Can you ask him to send it to us?
Well, we have it, I mean, Gail has it.
An update?
Well, so there was in 2020, the board had made some changes, but then it never went any, we never did anything with it, so.
Well, he was going to,
What he said was while he couldn't be here tonight, that whatever the board wants changes in the fireworks ordinance, he's looking, you tell him what he wants to do and they'll put it together, so.
the last we had of the,
Yes, Selectman Constantine.
the last we had on the fireworks ordinance was that he felt that the officers, good night, felt that the officers could not enforce what was in the fireworks ordinance. And we were going to meet at the time with Jesse, myself, and another selectman, and I forget who it was, and the chief, to go over and fine tune it to what he felt could be enforceable in the village district. And at that time, and then he got really busy and then left. So that's where we left it. He couldn't, there was not enough teeth in it to the police officers to enforce it the way it was written. So if you'd still like to sit down and meet on that, I'm all for it. I'll sit down and meet with them.
Well, he said he'd come to the next meeting and talk to the board.
That's the way we left it. He was the one that gave us the indication that it was not enforceable. And we told him, can you make it so that it's enforceable? And that's what we're waiting on. Right? Remember?
Yeah. These are good.
My God.
Okay. So we okay moving on, and when we can have Jesse, we'll.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
So we are going to head into non-public session.
I'll call for a ride, Jane.
The time being 6:21 PM, I make a motion to enter into non-public session per RSA 91A32A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee,
Second.
or the investigation of any charges against him or her, unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a public meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted.
Still second.
So motion with a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Constantino, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Ruggles, yes.
Pyra, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
Good. We are now in.
This conference will now be recorded.
I make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session of August 18th, 2022, because disclosure would adversely affect the reputation of a person other than a member of the board.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Hearing none, those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next order of business are Selectmen's reports. First up this evening is Selectman Scanlon.
Okay, so, I don't want to steal your thunder, Scott, but I have to say something a little bit.
Go,
I
whatever.
had a great time up at the Tilton school, and I'm not gonna say anything more than that, because I think you're gonna touch on it. But
You
We-
can, go ahead. Mr.
I
Scanlon.
just looked at these calendars. I don't know if anybody's seen them, but the pictures are incredible. It just, it is a great gift, and they had them available, so those are out there. You can open it if you wish.
Well, I'm not opening it. I don't want to lessen the
yet,
value of it.
I know, it may be done, I'm sure.
Yeah, for those who might be viewing, Mr. Scanlon has the Tilton Historical Society's calendar, which, yeah.
No, it's not the Snap-on calendar.
So, yeah, no.
So that's pretty much it. Did some mowing up at the, over by the entering Tilton sign and on that. Fortunately, it's been dry, so I haven't had to spend too much time up there mowing and picking up trash. There's been some work that's been done on the trail, some volunteers. I forget his name. He did some more grading on the trail and making that look nice. They've come to a decision on posting the signs or markers so that it can help identify, how far apart. In case somebody does have to report something, they can say it's near marker such and such. So that will be helpful. And that's about it. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Scanlon. Selectman Constantino.
I have a couple of things. The executive committee for the senior center met the other day in, it's more under Tim's report than anything for the first one. The senior center executive committee wanted to buy a laptop, and we asked Tim to look for one for us, particularly for M, would be using it. Tim, did you want to give the report for the laptop, or do you?
Oh, I'm fine talking about that.
Okay, let Tim, and then I'll go
Sorry,
on to the
what?
other things. I just saw it in your report, so I was gonna, I know you were coming.
Just briefly, the Senior Center Executive Committee asked if I could help them procure a laptop for their use at the senior center. And I said, I actually have one that hasn't been allocated yet. It was inexpensive and would be a good candidate. So I'm recommending that we reallocate the expense to the senior center.
It's $219.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, great, thanks. Tim.
Yep.
So, last week I talked about the library at, the little library at the senior center, and I mentioned the name Katie Saunders, and it wasn't, I misspoke on that one. Katie's up at the Tilton School, but it was the library person, Amy. So we all agreed at the executive committee that the little free library could be located up at the senior center, and I'm going to meet with her. We thought the placement would be on the ramp itself, on the outside of the ramp over by the old water spigot. That way when Awakening Chiropractic uses the parking lot as well, people with children and people with, customers, general customers can see it as well and utilize it, not just the senior center. So it would be a win-win for both of us. The Boy Scouts are going to be using the senior center at no charge for a fundraiser for them, and Emily and Iris and the rest of the executive committee are going to help them out.
That's upcoming in January. I can't read my writing. The Parks Commission is also going to use the senior center for a mystery night. I believe it's called Mystery
I
Night.
heard about that, so I got invited.
Sometime in October. The date is not quite set yet. That's coming up as well. And I believe I've gotten everything written down. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Selectman Constantino. So I am up next. As Mr. Scanlon alluded, many, many thanks to the community. I'll sort of say this obviously as board rep, but also Tilton School Rep, is that by rough count, there were about 300 people who came last Sunday to the free book fair and to the tours of the Tilton Mansion. I was able to stop in just for a brief amount of time to see the initial crowd, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful to see. We're glad that people could get in to see the mansion, and hopefully in the future that the Tilton Historical Society will be able to do some more there as well once renovations are finished. One thing to note, anyone who would like to have some books, Selectman Constantino, maybe for the little library, this weekend, this Saturday, 11 to 2, at the Tilton Mansion, if people would like to go through, there are still books that we have up there. And just a reminder is that these aren't textbooks. These are books on every single subject that you can imagine. But the books are free, and people are welcome to go up there between 11 and 2. The Historical Society did want me to make sure that people understand there are not tours of the mansion, but obviously you would be able to walk through to the stacks and see some of the rooms, but not official tours. So 11 to 2 this Saturday will be more free books available at the Charles Tilton Mansion on the campus of Tilton School.
Scott?
Yes, sir.
One thing about the free books, bring a shopping bag. Okay, because I took 2 trips to my car.
Yeah, there's lots of books.
There's a lot.
There.
Bring your shopping bag.
Good, yes, so bring something to tote them in, absolutely. The other thing is I wanted to suggest to the board that we consider doing a public meeting in terms of an update on the island and on the bridge, just so that we can hopefully get some clarification out there, just in terms of what we have and where we are and where we stand on the process, and let people know. So would everyone sort of agree to doing a public meeting on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Super, good. And that's all I have for this evening. Mr. Jessamine.
Hello. I'd like to thank everybody who came out to the concert this last Sunday. Big band, well, medium-sized band. It wasn't giant, but it was a lovely evening. And I'm hopeful everybody will come this Sunday. The J Street Extension, Kent Fenimore is going to be playing. It'll be a lovely evening, and please come on down. Secondly, on the 17th, had a meeting of the joint board for the Regional Solid Waste and Resource Recovery Cooperative. Unfortunately, our chairman of 31 years, Mr. Bill Herman, passed away unexpectedly. I don't have the exact date, but in the last few weeks. Certainly a loss. Mark Stetson from Canterbury was appointed in his place, and I was appointed vice chairman.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, all that means is that if Mark doesn't show up for whatever reason, I can run the meeting. I have the information from the meeting. I will say that right now we have a property right down near the incinerator, and we have a purchase and sales, but right now, for the last 18 months, the guy's been paying $18,000 or $10,000 per month for us to extend the close date. And he wanted to do it again, and we voted to do it again, 60 grand, which would come off the purchase price if indeed he does pull the trigger on this. If he does not, at the end of 6 months, there was interest shown in putting the property up again, depending on what the real estate market is at that time. This is at exit 17, and they're building a bunch of stuff down there.
Market Basket. liquor store.
Burger King is going in down there, and I haven't explored.
Wendy's.
So the property
August
would be
26th, Market Basket.
even more valuable perhaps. The guy that owns it was, I mean, nothing's written in stone, but he was talking about some kind of a warehousing situation. I don't know if that's a distribution center for, I don't know. None of that stuff is out there yet.
Joe, I have a question. Is there a set price for the solids being in?
$1.5 million.
I would hope that they have him work on, because technically he's paying a no-interest loan, $10,000 a month towards purchasing. There's no incentive to actually.
Well, there is within the next 6 months.
So he has 6 months.
We figure if he doesn't pull the trigger, we get his money.
Yeah.
It's our money, it's in the bank.
And that comes back somehow into that.
Yeah, well, if he does complete the purchase and sales, all the monies that he has paid will go toward that contracted price of 1.5 million. State has a complicated formula for dealing with the closure funds. You have closure funds. There's a 30-year, 100-year closure fund. And the state, by their new and improved calculations, has ascertained that we are $337,000 short of capitalization in our 30-year fund. So being a municipal entity, we could assess a levy on each of the member towns. However, there's no support for that. We have a 100-year fund that had almost $650,000. So we voted upon the advice of our lawyer, who is also an accountant, to take that money from the 100-year fund, move it into the 30-year fund. Ta-da, we're capitalized. My question was, what happens in 3 years when they do this again? Because every 3 years, they look and make sure that you've got enough money. And if they decide you don't have enough money, and we thought, I don't have the exact thing, like $1.8 million or $1.9 million. It's not like we don't have any money, but they have a formula. And they were like, well, hopefully it won't come to that. But if we don't do it this way, then we have to levy on each of the towns. So although I felt as if we were maybe kicking this can 3 years down the road, I voted yes, everybody voted yes, and so we're now capitalized according to the state. There is no such rules and regulations on a 100-year fund. That was, let me see, Whitney property. And that was it. That was the meeting. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Chessman. Mr. Pryor.
Thank you. First thing is, Tim, I got a complaint from a citizen about the call alert system. There was an accident up in the Laconia, or no, actually, by the dental office there. There was a road closure. And they said that late at night, there was an alert call made that the road was reopened at 11:30 at night. And they were asking what the policy is to that, considering it was so late at night. Was it really necessary?
Yeah, those alerts emanate from the police department.
Yep.
So we don't have a set policy. I'm not aware that the chief has a set policy for alerts, but they probably they are sending probably 99% of the alerts out from the PD. So it would be a matter of determining, I presume they determine the issue of public safety versus the time of day.
Yeah, they have a sick relative, so calls, it was unnecessarily alarming for them, but that's all. I just said I'd bring it up. I know that now it's coming from the PD and they will work on its policy.
I will alert the chief of that so that he cognizant of those.
Okay. Back on August 9th, the Tilton Community and Economic Development Committee met. So I just thought I'd give you a update on all the activities and projects going on. As you saw in the to be signed file, John Bernard has agreed to join the committee, and we're excited to have him on board. Engineers are working on the plan for the crosswalk from Winter Street over to Riverfront Park. Expect to see those plans fairly soon, and then the NHDOT will review and approve those plans. We are revising the quote for 15 14-foot lamps for the Winnipesaukee River Walkway. That's the True Green accident site. Came in at $80,000. Initial estimates was $33,000. So the committee has asked the contractor, Josh Carter, to go back to lighting experts and see if we could reduce the number to 10, or maybe need to consider a phased-in approach, look for grants, or just move forward using ARPA funds. What would the board wish to do?
So you want to finish the project? What is it that you want to?
The lights across from the T-Tall gas station where the accident site was, where the truck went through the railing.
Right, the lamps.
Yeah, we originally thought that project was only going to cost $33,000 to put in 15 14-foot lamps.
Right.
We're going to look at possibly reducing that to 10, or just move forward using ARPA funds, or look for grants.
The new quote was
$88,000. $80,000 was the actual quote.
How much of the insurance money do you have?
That was used to put in the fence.
None.
Yeah,
so where do you propose to get the money for the 10? Or you don't?
The 10?
Well, he says originally you were going to.
15. We were always going to use ARPA funds.
Yeah.
But
now the ARPA ask has gone up to basically $47,000 to take that out of. That means something else that's on the list from ARPA funds would not get funded. Or do you want the committee to look for more grants?
Can we table this because on Jeannie's list it says she's going to give us a status of ARPA monies next week?
Oh, we're going to do it tonight. I just, at the time I sent my report out, I didn't have this.
Okay, so maybe that question can be answered a little bit later, Eric, and
sure.
When we know what other funds we have to put aside in order to get that done.
Yep, we can do that. The Tilton Island Park Revitalization. We were successful in securing a matching grant from the Hart Family Fund, which is the National Trust for Historic Preservation, in the amount of $9,862.50 to create a historic landscape master plan for the Tilton Island Park. The Tilton Island Bridge restoration, which we just briefly spoke about. Jeannie and Leanne have had several meetings with the engineers to determine alternatives and costs associated with those various alternatives. Jeannie and Leanne attended a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant workshop. And these are some of the options. Remove the bridge and restore, which would have an estimated cost of $800,000 to $1.2 million. Put in a temporary bridge for 2 years at a cost of $350,000. Then afterwards, we could potentially resell that temporary bridge, recouping some of our costs. Save $350,000 and keep the island closed until the restored bridge is completed. Remove the historic bridge, don't restore it, and use it as a display somewhere in Tilton and put in a new bridge at a cost of roughly $500,000, or a replica bridge, likely the same amount likely to cost the same as the restored bridge. The original bridge would still remain historic even though it's not being used, but it would also, on the downside, would continue to deteriorate. Keep the historic bridge in place and build a new bridge alongside it. Historic bridge would be closed to the public. We're also working on a downtown parking and mobile app project. We applied for a grant from Franklin Savings Bank, and we should be hearing soon, hopefully in the month of August, from that. The committee also discussed developing town-owned property abutting the river in the area of the Tilton House of Pizza parking lot, and we are working on researching that. Working with the New Hampshire Department of Transportation and Jim Cropsey to continue the sidewalk that ends on the eastern side of Riverfront Park, to continue that across Mr. Cropsey's property over to Park Street. And the committee will be hosting a roundtable discussion with downtown businesses at our November meeting. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Pyra. On to the town administrator's report.
So, under action items, you signed the application for John Bernard, who will be joining the Economic Development Committee. Sheena Duncan is ready to paint the mural on the barricade of the bridge. Her proposal is to place a figure of Charles Tilton on the center panel and make a gateway with the name of the bridge at the top and the year that it was constructed. The image of the bridge itself would recede into the background with the parkscape behind it. She'd add some flower boxes on the railings. And when I say add flower boxes, painting them, right? So I had sent you all in your packet, which apparently some of you did not get your packet, but it is in your board packet. A rough drawing of what she's proposing. And Scott just mentioned that he has access to some artwork that would be helpful in this.
Yeah, I have access to a full-size painting of Charles Tilton, oil painting of Charles Tilton that I can let Sheena take a look at and take some pictures of too.
So I just need the board to be able, say yes, go ahead with this. So
Thumbs up? Yes.
Yes.
Pat, John, Joe. Oh. Next item is the sidewalk policy revision. So this was in front of the board a while back. And when it came in front of the board a while back, I was directed to pull out to replace the language with saying no obstructions and give examples of that. I did, Scott, I don't know if you saw the email I sent you, but my notes from the meeting said to make changes that no obstructions can be placed on the sidewalks, and that's what this current policy says. But when I went back through the prior minutes to confirm when we last discussed it, it was on June 16th. However, the minutes say that the selectmen would revisit the policy changes after construction was done on the south side of the sidewalks. And I had asked you, I don't know if you saw the email or not, Scott, but was that your recollection? Was that the recollection of the board that we were going to wait until the sidewalks were done? If we do that, that's fine, but that's probably a year down the road. And the point of this revision do you remember that at all?
The revision I remember was the spelling of Pat's name.
Well,
So
her name was spelled wrong, but
I don't recall, but I can't go either way. I don't recall if that was said or not. Because I do remember when we had discussed putting off the construction on the south side.
Right.
So, but I don't remember it pertaining, I don't remember talking about it pertaining to the Main Street sidewalk, the sidewalk policy.
So the one that you looked at that I had in front of you before said effective immediately, no merchants, business people and or residents may place tables, chairs or benches on the Main Street sidewalk. And the conversation was, besides misspelling of the name, was that just to change it to say no obstructions. So if you are not prepared to talk about this tonight, that's fine. It's been outstanding. I can bring it back, or whatever the board wants to do. I know Pat said she wasn't prepared to talk about it, so.
I'm vehemently opposed to it. We have businesses downtown that have been in business almost 100 years, some of them, and that they put their wares out front. It's an attraction. It's what they do to bring customers in. Billy Lawrence puts his plants out there. We know that his garden plants, springtime, it's there. We know to stop when we see them. We all stop, go in, purchase them. Mansfield Books, he puts them out. Sometimes the businesses know that he puts his books out to stop, get a free book. Also that it's a notice to the general public to stop in. He has a little tiny food pantry in there. There's a lot of little intricacies in downtown that's been in existence for a lot of years. And we have our own benches that are downtown that are utilized.
Right, so this policy revision started out with the Economic Development Committee, and it started out because we were trying to make the downtown look a little more uniform, which was saying no more shower chairs. Remember this, you two? No more shower chairs. If people want to sit outside, we'll provide the benches so that they can sit on the benches, so that at least there's more uniformity in the downtown. So that's where we started this conversation. And then there was a discussion about, you've got sandwich boards in the middle of the street that people have to navigate around. And at this last discussion, so where it started out in economic development, after a conversation with this board, it went to nothing on the streets. No obstructions on the streets.
It didn't start out here with nothing in the streets. It started out in economic developments in the streets. The sandwich boards are illegal. There's no enforcement on the sandwich boards. We have businesses downtown that put their things out there.
I get it, and I'm not, but I just want to be clear. It did not start out in economic development, no obstructions. What started, you two, you were there, so please speak up. It started out just saying, we want to have uniformity of chairs, of seating. We want to get rid of the shower seats. And then when it came to this board, it kind of morphed into let's have no obstructions on the seat. And it doesn't matter. What we were trying to go for was just the seating.
It doesn't, I don't believe, too, if we look at the wording on it, it wouldn't preclude Billy where if he wanted a
It
parking.
would.
Says
Well, no,
Well, I'm not done yet, Pat. It says by special permit issued by the Board of Selectmen. So when Billy gets his plants in, which I've gone and bought a couple from him over the years, and it's wonderful and it's a traditional thing, all he's got to do is come get that piece of paper so that he could, for those few weeks, have his plants up there. The same thing with the gentleman with the books, which I think is a good thing, a good draw for his business as well. So it doesn't preclude them, it just changes it a little bit where they would have to just come over.
You can't haphazardly put stuff on the sidewalk. And that I agree with.
John?
So I remember that it quite well. I actually saved the paperwork and some notes on it. You know what the current policy is? Can anybody recite the current policy?
I don't know what iteration there
Any
is.
selectmen?
One time we allowed.
I have it at home,
Okay.
John, I didn't bring it with me.
So we need to understand that, the current policy, effective immediately, merchants, business people, and residents who wish to place tables, chairs, benches on the Main Street sidewalk shall ensure that the placement is against the building front in such a way not to block the entrance and does not extend outward more than 3 feet from the street. So after that, I did get some calls that sometimes when it's a sunny day or something and somebody opens up their shop, there's, what's the clothing place?
Nickels and dimes.
Nickels and dimes, that they put, even like a Sunday, they put a couple racks of clothes out there because it's nice out and they have some stuff or they're having a sale.
Yeah.
And she said, people stop immediately. And when the guy with the books puts them out there, or people with the antiques puts a unique item out there, within the 3 feet towards the street, it makes the town look lived in. It doesn't look like everything's closed up and all that. I don't feel that we have an issue or a problem at all with it. I think it's harmful to their business. As a business owner who operated a business in downtown Tilton for years, it was very important to put things out. That's how people stop. They saw something unique or whatever. If we make it that they have to apply for permission for anything, then they have to go and we have to go and wait 2 weeks for it and do that. What's the harm? I think we should have a hearing for these people. They don't know, they did not know until they heard from the selectmen meeting and watched the selectmen meeting that we were going to even vote on this. And, transparency, that's what it's about, working with these business people and that. What's the harm of putting a rack of books or a clothes rack on the street that doesn't block the sidewalk?
Mr. Byron?
Things, on some parts of the sidewalk, there isn't 3 feet. But that's neither here nor there. Maybe we can postpone this until the economic committee meets with these downtown businesses in our November meeting, and then get their feedback and come back to this board and make decisions based off of their feedback. That's all.
I'd like to have that a public hearing at the Board of Selectmen like we do with parking spaces.
It is a Board of Selectmen policy. I have a question. What is the purpose of economic development committee, or what is the definition of economic development?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No.
Semi-self-explanatory.
No, but is economic development promoting businesses and bringing businesses into downtown and into areas where there's no business and things like that, promoting businesses and economic growth? Am I misleading the definition of economic development when I say that?
Eric?
I'm asking the question. Go ahead.
Just raising my hand. It's some of that, part of that, what you just said, but it's also identifying gaps in some of our businesses that are downtown, that what type of business could be attracted, or could we work on attracting downtown that would enhance some of the other area activities. So for example, in Franklin, there is the new, what do you call that? Whitewater Park.
Water park.
You know, what other things could we
I didn't
bring?
hear the answer to that, Scott, you weren't talking in the mic.
Whitewater Park.
The Whitewater Park. So there's a new Whitewater Park, but just at our last meeting, it was the idea of like, geez, you know, too bad we didn't have a business that could cater and have people rent tubes or something and put in up in Northfield and pull out down here at Riverfront Park, bringing people to downtown Tilton, which is the area that we focus on between, you know, park to park. So it's that type of thing. And in some areas, they develop standards for things so that everything is kind of uniform. And I understand and appreciate, you know, what the downtown businesses do, but the idea behind this was to bring some type of uniformity to certain things that have been observed.
May I tag along on that?
You can do whatever you like.
Yeah, and I think also in terms of when you look at economic development, what economic development has done and continues to do in multiple communities is creating that consistency, the consistency of message, the consistency of aesthetics. You know, when you look at what the economic development folks have done in, let's say, Laconia, in the understanding that they were going to open up storefronts, and I don't mean open storefronts, but actually open them up by removing trees and then just putting flower planters in and things like that. So it's taking a look at the overall promotion, the promotion of the businesses that currently exist, but also trying to put on, you know, a little bit of that the aesthetics that will then continue to make it consistent. There are some places that go as stringent as, you know, certain paint colors and things like that. Obviously, that's not a place that any of us are at right now, but it's the place where we want to move park to park. You know, what are we bringing? How are we aesthetically taking a look at things? How are we being able to service and serve the folks who would come here to shop, the people who own the businesses here? So being able to again create that consistency overall, and eventually, you know, really start to push the messaging of what we want, what Tilton could be, could continue to, in terms of the continued growth overall. So economic development is it casts a wide swath.
So are we looking at the old and finding that balance between the old and the new and trying to marry them together? Are we looking to push out the old and bring in the new? Or how does that work with economic development?
I think I think the balance. I think it becomes a balance of sort of what we have and keeping, you know, the things that we have, but also acknowledging, you know, where do we need to go forward with, you know, if we want to talk sidewalk policy, keeping space, leaving space, how do we look at, you know, what's going to help promote the businesses? And I know from talking, you know, with folks in Laconia, using that as the thing, you know, there were some folks who pushed back a little bit about the removal of the trees, but the whole thing is that as people drive down Main Street, they can now open up and see the storefronts and be able to see the things there.
Right.
And they've put planters in, you know, to do that. So,
Right.
you know, and so, you know, things like that. No, it's not, you know, it's, I think I mean, we like the folks that are down here and we don't want to push them out, but how can we now encourage more activity down here? You know, and obviously all of us would like to fill every single storefront with something down there.
So one of the biggest, in talking with the business owners, one of the biggest cons downtown is the bike riding and the scooters on the sidewalk. And there's no enforcement. I mean, you could see a police officer chalking tires and bicycles are riding down the sidewalk and there's no enforcement. And yet there's signs almost on every pole, no bike riding on the sidewalks. So, and people have gotten knocked over by them coming out of stores, hairdressers, you know, different things like that over the years, and there's been no, any type of enforcement in that area. That's one of the biggest complaints that we've gotten over the years. The other one is the trees. You can't see the stores visually when you come in, you can't see the stores. But I think that there's a balance to be had, particularly with, you know, economic development. And one of that balance is marrying the old with the new, but let's just put it on hold till we hear from the business owners, because this is, really strikes a chord with me, because we have a lot of longevity downtown that have been here and struggled through when it's been a ghost town, and they've still struggled through and stuck it out. And to say, no, you can't do this and you can't do that, or you have to come in every single time you want to put something out, I don't agree with that at all.
So would we like to go the route of the two-tier where businesses with economic development committee, and then after that, John's suggestion where we do the public hearing about it?
I think it should be directly to the Board of Selectmen, it's our policy.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
our
want to hear
policy,
directly
yeah.
from them, just like we do with the parking. And when we change that, or street changes and.
The meeting with the Economic Development Committee was not about sidewalk policy. They're
Not
gonna
at
do
all.
that.
No,
They'll talk about it.
Changing the policy, I think, should be.
A hearing with us.
And you wouldn't do that at Economic Development anyway.
No, that meeting was specifically
Right.
just in terms of,
So we should have a
Making it.
public hearing just on that with the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Pyro.
I mean, along that, I mean, you know, when this meeting, you know, either myself or Scott would be able to come back to the board and say, you know, this is the feedback we received from the business owners. And, you know, it's not, you know, this is just what they're saying. And you can make decisions based off of what they're saying. We're not trying to change.
Right,
So-
again, just remember, it started out by putting more benches out and having uniform seating. That's where this started. So we'll set up a public hearing. And we'll just put this aside for now. So the next thing on my update is an update on the Tilton employee total reward system that I talked to the board about. Gave you a list of things, items that selectmen might want to consider that help with employee morale, employee retention. We talked about doing some flex time. I did talk with employees about that. It doesn't appear to be a workable solution because of the size of the town and the size of the offices. It's not like you have 3 people in land use where somebody can cover, because initially the thought was in the summer Fridays, the town hall is closed. What the selectmen said was town hall needs to be open Monday through Friday, but maybe somebody takes off on Monday and somebody takes off on Friday, so there's always coverage. At the end of the day, this didn't work out, so I just wanted to report back to you on that. The next issue is rollover paid time off. That was one of the things that Tim and I talked about, looking at some of the things that have been I think remain the same for a while, and something the board might want to consider is increasing the 60 hours of rollover to 80 hours, which would be 2 weeks versus a week and a half. So don't know if the board wants to consider this.
I do.
I do.
Quite frankly, I think they should be able to buy out all their paid time off. Otherwise, we would be paying them, right? And we wouldn't have their services. Now we have their services and they're put in a position where either we say, sorry, Tilton, I know you need me, I know, but if I don't use this paid time off, which is one of my benefits, then I'm just gonna lose it. So I'll take my time off and sorry about your bad luck. That doesn't, never made sense to me. In my industry, they do the same thing. If you don't use your time off, then you lose it. Well, what kind of a deal is that? Sure, I'll take my time off. I want this weekend and that weekend and 4th of July weekend. Well, no, you can't do that.
Exactly.
You know? So it's their paid time off.
You could take the time
And all of
off
a sudden,
on
we're
paid
gonna
time.
snatch it away from them. That has never made sense to me. And I know it's been the policy all along. There's certain, you have to take so many hours. And if you accrue this many hours, then you just lose it. You're out of luck. That doesn't, it strike me as fair. That whole concept never did strike me as fair. I understand it's subject to abuse. I'm not gonna take any time off, which I think is wrong because people should be taking their time off. That's what it's there for. But if you can't, the police department, I got the feeling that come December, we're gonna have the chief. Everybody else is gonna have to take time off or they're gonna lose their money. So that's where I'm at anyway. Anything that gets them more of their money is fine with me.
Yes, Mr. Scanlon.
No, I could see going up to the, increasing it by the 20 hours. I think in many cases, they're probably still gonna be losing time because people just don't wanna take the time off. Well, one of the important things in life is life, and it's not here at town hall. You gotta stay with your family, you gotta go do things, you have to do it. And if we have to somehow force the people to have some leisure time away from us, then let's do it. I think, I'd like to hear from employees too, and how their part is. I can tell you, me personally, if I don't use all my vacation time, I lose it, all of it.
Yep.
Every single day of it. I'd like to be able to carry over a week so that, just in case plans drop or something like that.
Yep.
But, the 80 hours, but I'm adamant that, and I think we tell Jeannie and we tell Tim, take some time off. We want to make sure that employees are, Kevin, he
Yeah, and
doesn't
then
like
when they
taking
do
time
take
off.
time off, they answer the phone anyway.
I know. But that's my feeling is that we need to strongly encourage people to have that downtime and.
And the policy does say that you have to take 40 hours. You're required to take 40 hours in the year anyway, but this is.
What if we increase that to 80 hours? You want to push them to get their vacation time in.
Yeah, all I'm talking about right now is
The rollover.
the rollover.
I know, but we're changing the rules.
Well, that 40 hours is a consecutive 40
Yeah.
hours.
You open the door.
I know, huh?
Doesn't say consecutive 40 hours.
I'm just trying to get through one thing at a time.
Yeah, so,
Mr. Pearson. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Scanlon.
Since you mentioned
great
employees, and I happen to be one, I just thought I'd mention, you have the number of staff shortages throughout the town. And so I think doing two things, not only the 20 hours, but even if you upped the buyout percentage from 40 to 50%, or lowered the number of years required to get to that point from 7 to 5, that might make life a little easier for people that are accruing that time and finding it difficult to take. So at least they can monetize it more so. That's just It's hard.
Spoken like a true negotiator.
Yeah, is there something we can all agree on?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to take the rollover paid time off from 60 to 80 hours.
Oh, I liked his idea too.
So we can do that as a separate motion if you.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Hearing none, those in favor of the motion of taking the rollover paid time off from 60 hours to 80 hours, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Motion. You said 50% buyout was the.
Say move from 40 to 50 and possibly even reduce the number of years
Needed to
qualify for it. Right now it's 7 years.
So reduce it to 5, from 7 to 5.
So moved.
That has to be kind of stated out. That had a lot of,
I got it.
okay.
Can we talk about this at another time?
Yeah.
I want to look at it, next week or
Next week.
time.
Okay, yeah,
Sure.
that's good. Let's
All
consider it.
right, so the next thing that has come up, it's not on my report.
Denied.
Huh? Denied. So you heard Abe tell you tonight about the shift. And I have, as the HR person, have been approached by a couple employees who would like to take advantage of the pets in the workplace policy. These are police department employees who will be impacted by the shift and would like to be able to, and the pets that they have are small dogs. They would like.
They're the most feisty.
Yeah.
I know that.
But, yeah, I do too. But they would like to take advantage of that, and I said I would bring them forward to the board. And I did talk to the chief about this because it is his department. He was amenable to the idea, thinking it'd be good for morale, would help with the 12-hour days, because people are going to be gone from home for a long period of time, so.
Mr. Jessamine.
Didn't I just read somewhere that the seats had to come out of the former police chief's car because they still smell like a dog?
Well, this is not having dogs in police vehicles.
Well, what if they went on call? What if
No.
They would stay at the PD?
Yeah. They
In a
would have
cage?
to. Yeah, they would have to be confined.
Crated.
And, if it's something, it would be the same thing as the current employee that we have. They'd have to sign an agreement. If there's any destruction or anything like that, they'd be responsible for it. Dog would always have to be under control, so.
Selectman Constantino.
I would be reluctantly in favor of this on a temporary basis.
Well, that's it. Could try it on a trial
On
basis.
on a trial basis. Like, I know we're short-staffed. I know that this shift thing is going to impact a lot of lives, never mind our friendly animals. I can't imagine them crossing their legs for that long, but we could do a 3 or 6 month period, and by then we would have another officer out of the academy and slowly getting our certifieds back up there. I think then at that point, we're adamant about, okay, now we're going back to the other shifts, because 3 12-hour shifts isn't going to handle it with officers. That is the most highest burnout shift ever. So I would be in favor on a temporary basis, having all vetted paperwork and the whole bit per our policy.
where would these dogs be housed? And I know in crates, but in crates in the chief's office?
In the
No.
server room.
In the server room? Out in the Sally Port?
No,
The files.
so in particular, the three that are asking all have offices. And they would be confined in their offices in a crate, in a crate in their office. And they would not be allowed to roam the PD, take them out on bathroom breaks, that sort of thing.
And how would these bathroom breaks be accomplished? We have people over there that go out, they patrol, they investigate, they do lots of things. Great people. But, I mean, who's gonna lock them? And if you're out on a call and it's like, whatever, and they're in this crate for 5 or 6 hours, perhaps, who's gonna be responsible?
That's reasonable to have.
Right, you're at home 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
Right now, they're doing 4 10s.
Right.
So they're doing a 10-hour shift. It's a
And
12-hour
if
shift.
the dog defecates on their carpet,
No,
The
they'll be in a
crate.
crate.
all right, he defecates in the crate, and now it smells like dog turds in the police department. I'm sorry, but I mean, think about it. I cede my time to John.
Mr. Scott.
I don't know how it got out, people saying I hate dogs. I love dogs. I love dogs. All my dogs have been ones I've taken in. I've had
I know.
miniature
I've seen her pictures.
pinchers. I've had 2 German
She's
shepherds, a lab, actually 2 labs. I love them. And I have grand dogs. I get 2 grand dogs. They're even better than my dogs. But the problem is that if we start saying, okay, well, this person can have it and that one can have it. Well, why can't the guys at the Public Works have dogs with them? Why not? Right? Because we're now, who can say that this person can have a dog or that person can't have a dog? And I know when my dogs were at home, I didn't keep them locked in a crate. They were in my house. They had an area where they could go to, and actually they were fortunately very well behaved. Occasional chewed arm off a chair or something, but besides that. But they're dogs, and they roam around my house, and I just can't see a dog being put in a crate inside an office, and then a lot of focus and attention on that. It doesn't seem right. And then can this one have a dog? Well, if she can have a dog or he can have a dog, can't. So I think we need a more broader. Okay, let's say a dispatch person who's sitting at dispatch at a screen in a dark room. Are they going to be in the 12 hours too, or I don't know.
I don't know.
Something like that. I can see it, or perhaps a administrator that never has to leave the building or something. People that are stationary to that. But how can we make it fair, but still protect the dogs from being locked up in a crate all day, water and bowls, and having to do their thing outside? And then we have to have a way to collect the waste because they're going to go somewhere, so you got to put it in bags and you got to put that somewhere. And I don't know if we have dumpsters or
Put it in the
barrels.
dumpster.
Yeah.
How about if we ask Jeannie to get some more information and all these questions
Well,
answered?
when I was approached by this, I did do some research and looked at, it is something that businesses are doing as a employee retention morale. It's not unheard of. It seems to be a thing. So it's not like, we're not cutting any new ground. Now, in terms of municipalities, I can't tell you. I know businesses like Ben and Jerry's and, the companies like that who are really into employee, retention and morale.
And Jerry, you're eating your scoop. Oh, there's a dog fur right there. I don't know.
But I like Pat's idea, which is, 3 to 6 month trial and see I mean, maybe after 2 weeks, it's just not gonna work. I mean, if anyone's gonna say it's not gonna work, it's gonna be the chief. He's gonna say, this isn't working. And, but again, I asked him, he thought it was a good idea.
A good idea or an idea that he would go with?
Well, you're right. I mean, an idea that he could support because he knows what's coming. And
I know what's coming too. We all know what's coming.
What's coming?
I'd make a motion that we try it till December 31st.
That's a long time.
You said 4 to 6 months. It's 4 months.
3 to 6 months, it's 4 months. It's only 4 months?
Mm-hmm. So I already figured out the math before I made my motion.
Oh.
Come on, Pat.
I won't tell you that fall is 35 days away or anything like that.
Oh, shut up.
Might be 34.
Okay, I'll second that.
Motion and a second discussion. Mr. Scanlon?
We have no set policy or procedure or anything how this is gonna work.
yeah, we do.
Where is it?
It was written
I
up
mean,
for
we got a motion on the table to
But we
accept it.
do have a
but
pet policy already.
Yeah, there is.
So- This
With Jake-
policy would apply to,
Yeah.
so anybody at all can have a dog, including the public works guys.
No, I think it has to come before the board. I mean, just like this is coming before the board, because that's what the policy says now, is that it has to come before the board.
Right.
And so these people have read the policy and they've asked me to bring it to the board.
Okay, so my point is I'd like to see more, who would be having them? Who would be, would these be for officers? How would that dog be cared for if somebody has to leave the building in emergency? What happens if the dog is sick? I need more input on this, not just a broad paintbrush on it. I'm for it in certain circumstances. I think we're being a little too broad on it.
So the policy right now, that,
I'd like to hear from the board right now,
Oh.
because we have a motion on the table.
So, I'm comfortable as long as we do establish the crate piece and to speak to crating animals, which I've done with my last 6 dogs, 6 puppies. It's actually by far the best way to make sure that they can be house trained. Some of them become very, very comfortable in their crates. It becomes their space where they go into, et cetera. And I can say, I can count on one hand the number of my dogs, and this is the last 6 dogs that I've crated, literally on one hand the number of accidents in a crate. Usually because, and that's.
They don't go in there.
No, they won't go in there. They will not go in their space. And it's so, could it happen? Absolutely. It's very much a rarity. So it's less than 5 times I ever have a dog have an accident in a crate. And that was probably 7 or 8 hours. And that was a very, very, very long time.
But to John's point, there are a lot of unknowns. I think that
I agree.
judging from the policy that we have here and knowing what they have to do to jump through the hoops over there, they have to make this work. If it's not gonna work, we're gonna know within the first week or 2. No questions asked. They have to work out the details. This is new territory for them and for us. It's a temporary situation where they're now being forced to go from 4 10-hour shifts to 3 12-hour shifts. And so can we be 4 12-hour, I'm sorry, 4 12-hour shifts, that's right. I'm sorry, I missed the math. So it's going to be a little lifestyle change for them. So they're asking us to bend a little bit. I think that given a temporary situation, can we keep an eye on it and in 2 weeks ask the chief to report to us what exactly, how are you doing it, what's happening, all of your questions that you have right now, Jeannie knows them. We can ask the chief to answer them. What's going on? How are they doing it? What happens when they get a call? Where are they being crated? What's happening with them when they leave? Are they there for long periods of time? And absolutely positively none in the cruises whatsoever. So I get a feel for that, but there's always going to be new. The same thing's gonna happen if Public Work came to us and said, I'd like this on a trial basis too. Could we try that on a trial basis? We would still have questions. Where would they be kept at Public Works? You can't have them on the plow truck, I would love to have my partner if I were plowing out there in a plow at night. But would that be the safe thing? What's that?
Kim wouldn't go for that.
Yeah, Kim wouldn't either. You're right. Sorry, Kim. Now I'm gonna get help for that, but thanks, Joe.
Sure.
So anyway, that's the question, and I think those questions can be answered within a 2-week period. I think that's what we're looking for.
So I guess, so I looked at the policy, and like I said, I love pets, I love dogs.
Yep.
I think we need to, because we're talking about creating animals and doing that, and this is how they'll be held, but our policy doesn't have that. Can we just get the policy down, agree on, have them produce what they'd like to have for a policy and how they'd be kept, and what they would like, and then do it, because we're just saying, yeah, you can have dogs right now, or pets, I mean, I guess. And just so that we have it down, what they want, because this says leashes, and,
Well, let's be very clear, we are saying dogs, we're not saying pets, because we are not having snakes up there. Telling you right
Okay.
now,
Or ferrets.
it's
Yeah,
a
well,
viable
cats.
expense, no.
I've had kids, I'd have everything,
I know
woolly
cat.
goldfish and iguanas too, so.
Okay, then.
But
Do we have a motion on the floor?
We do.
But that was my reason to wait until and bring it up next time with the full thing, and then we can say yes.
When is the 12s going into effect?
September. That's what, I believe he said September. Would it be,
Is it 8 weeks or 12?
yeah, is it appropriate to have building policies on this?
Chief would have to have a building policy.
Yeah.
That puts more on his plate.
And let him talk the policy that he'd like on it, be in control of it, and he can monitor it according to that.
Well, he's looked at this. I mean, they've.
And he was
this
fine
is-
with it.
Yeah, this has been circulated. That's why it came back to me.
So see that, you're saying yes, but that policy says on a
We can-
leash and confined in their
Right, but we
office.
can add the crate. I mean, if.
Can we add that first? I mean, we're voting on a policy that doesn't exist.
Just say, make an amendment to your motion saying contingent upon adding crates to the event. Dogs must be crated when owner's not available to the policy.
Mr. Jessman.
I call the question.
I won't
Can always-
amendment.
Throw another motion if you want in the, if this
Well, we
gets
just voted
changed.
down.
Well, we can add the motion we can add a motion after.
Or if it gets voted down, we can
We can add a motion.
We'll
change.
see how it goes.
Question has been called. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2.
I'd like to make a motion to add to the policy, all dogs must be crated when the owner is absent from the PD.
For any
Just
town
something
building.
to that effect, the building, I should say. Or something to that effect.
The building or what?
The police building or any building?
I think in general, as in any building, right?
Any building.
Public Works. So.
Yeah, because then we don't have to change it ever again. Yeah, any building.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Discussion.
I think that what you just said was if they're in the police station, the dog doesn't have to be in the crate.
Correct. It's with the owner.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I was hearing you correct.
So, oh, I'm confused now.
Why?
So while that person is building, the dog can,
So let's
Go
say, that it's dispatched. The dog is in with the dispatch, okay? But the dispatch has to leave for lunch. That dog's gonna be crated. The owner comes back, then the dog, because it's in a confined space.
Or may go with the owner.
Or they may.
Or they may go with
they may
it,
leave the
absolutely.
so, how about a police officer?
Same thing. If the police officer is in a confined space, in an office space, writing out a report, the dog's fine with it.
They don't have confined spaces.
They do.
No, it's open door to where they do their reports.
And in the
Patrol.
patrol and squad room, if the door is open, they'd have to put a gate or something on it.
Yeah.
Or leash.
And leash.
Or leash.
Is there some way we
Or a
could say,
leash,
can you guys
yeah.
come up with some type of,
A leash, just like Luke here, he's on a leash.
so if two officers have dogs, they want crates and leashes for them? They'll be kept on a leash walking around.
What's the sense of bringing your dog to work if you can't walk with them?
What's the sense of coming to work? I'm sorry,
It's true.
I'm just saying.
I personally would
it's-
not bring my brats to
I
work.
know you love dogs and everything,
I
but
absolutely
I think
adore
we
dogs.
need to make it clear in a policy on what the procedure would be, so that there's no misunderstandings and do that.
Katie?
So how about the dog needs to be in a crate if the person is gone? I mean, I agree, you can't have a dog wandering around, and a person shouldn't be, if you have to go out of your office or confined space, your dog shouldn't be coming down the hall with you. The only time the dog should be out of your confined space should be if they're taking them out to go home, bringing them in, or taking them out to go to the bathroom. They shouldn't be roaming around the halls.
Yeah, I agree with that. I didn't realize that's what he was asking me. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Number one, I wouldn't want my
How
dogs
can we word it?
at work.
So dog must be leashed whenever out of the crate or out, but the dog should be in the confined space, in the crate.
Dogs are not allowed to roam freely
Right.
in the building.
There you go.
Or be under
Right.
owner's control at
Right.
all times.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless created.
That's how we have it at work in the hotel. Dogs have to be leashed and under the owner's control at all times in public spaces.
Okay.
Even the ankle biter ones.
Mr. Jessman?
I call the question.
Question has been called. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next item, follow up to the selectmen's approval to purchase equipment to measure noise levels so the ordinance could be enforced. I had asked the chief about piece of equipment. He responded back that he saw an issue with that. I sent that all to the board. John asked for a copy of the disorderly actions ordinance. So I don't know where you want to go at this point, because the board had approved purchasing the equipment. But I went back to the chief and he said, I don't think that's not gonna, for all the reasons he had identified. So I just want to go back and say, do you want to stop this purchase? Because you had approved it and he doesn't support it for all the reasons he gave, so. You don't? So if you're there. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it? It's
No,
right there.
I think it's better.
And we also, just a reminder, we do have to do those July 21st minutes, Mr. Chairman, because the Caleb Hill project's being held up. And then we're gonna talk about ARPA and then I'll be done.
Okay, so I guess, yeah, so he's comfortable under the second paragraph there, I think, is that what I'm getting out of it?
Yeah, he's saying that they can write tickets for that. I just,
Without having to go to,
right,
no, I can't see spend the money.
okay, so,
Did everybody else see that?
I did
Yeah,
see it.
in the second paragraph there.
Yeah,
They
it's
they
very
can-
difficult to enforce.
I'm a no,
Well, no, that they can,
know what,
no equipment.
don't buy the equipment, okay.
That would be no.
I'm a no.
Yeah, I'm a no.
Yeah,
on the bottom
no.
equipment.
Are you a no, Pat?
Yep.
Okay,
So that's a yeah.
I know it's a yes.
Those are 5 no's for a yes.
Yes, she's a no.
okay. So,
She's in the no.
9 Mechanic Street. Received a complaint from DOT regarding the condition of the structure. We got the email. And I think you probably already know, you saw that it's being followed up.
Correct.
So, and we had a discussion about this earlier, so I know I'm all set there.
Okay.
Yeah, see this, we should.
ARPA funds. Actually, before ARPA funds, or I take that back, okay, ARPA funds. Pat had asked for an update on ARPA funds. So Tim prepared a spreadsheet. Where's my spreadsheets? Do you have those? Tim?
You have them. Gail said she-
Oh, here they are.
So this report is ordered in sections. The top section includes approved projects and the status of those. Then there's a section of projects we're looking for approval on. And then you'll see the list of the other projects that are in the wings, working on quotes, that sort of thing. And then at the bottom, you can see the total of ARPA funds allocated for Tilton are $370,915. You can see that the board has already approved $88,169, and what the requested amount is and what that leaves available. So in the approved projects area, just to recap, there was a supplement for the 2 Tahoes because the availability of those vehicles at the time. On the left, you'll see the date of the meeting that the ARPA monies were approved, so April 21st for that. There were also wage adjustments and premium pay for some of the departments in PD and Public Works, and those were approved on January 20th, and you can see the status of those. The Public Works project is complete. There are some remaining funds there. The PD is ongoing. And then the Senior Center Fire and Security System, that was 100% paid for from ARPA funds, and that was approved on November 4th of last year. And then the radios, the portion of those radios that aren't covered by the locality equipment grant were to be paid for by ARPA funds, and you can see the status of that, and that is in process right now. The 3, Jeannie, did you want to go over the 3 items that are being requested?
Sure. First one is the Winter Street crossing. That's the rapid reflecting beacon that we're working with DOT. They have already started the work. They had to do as-built plans, and now they've, I think Garrett talked about it in his report. We're expecting the plan any day now. And we have talked to the board about this, and you have been supportive of it, but we actually never got a formal vote on this. So I just want to circle back and get you to say if you agree to support this. It may not be $50,000, that's a ballpark. If you remember, what DOT said was that if we do Winter Street, we should do Deer Street, and then there's another street because they're all kind of in a line coming down from the school. We don't have to do them all at once, they can be phased in, but you buy the rapid reflecting beacons in like packs, they come in like 3 in a pack. So it's more cost effective to buy 3 and then install them as you are ready to do that. You put 2 aside, install the 1. The other place where we want to put one at some point is when the Tilton Island Bridge and the park is restored, that having a one of them right there, which is what DOT is supporting as well.
It was the one in front of New Franklin Apartments was the other one, the other crosswalk. So, Mr. Scanlon?
The other crosswalk would be where the rail trail crosses the street.
Is that the Run Farms?
Salmon Run.
Yeah.
Well, that's not
That
what
would
they,
have to be a new one.
yeah, they haven't identified that as one.
So-
That's certainly,
Yeah,
that's
because
something.
that's the rail trail actually, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
They
it comes out.
absolutely don't want one there.
Yeah.
Well, they said that we could, but it was gonna cost us
$120,000,
because they had the whole street light set up.
and it would be a full-blown street light, not a beacon.
No, this is a rapid reflecting beacon, and
So I don't know if something like that would fit there. That would be because there's a lot of people cross there.
Yeah. right now,
It's a park.
I mean, and we can certainly look at that, but right now what we're looking at is, the first one is the one and Winter Street over to Riverfront Park, because since the day I
Oh, yeah.
came here, this is what you guys have been talking about, so. So that's one project.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but they were talking about a phased approach over 8
Right.
to 10 years.
Yes,
You'd have to put the other 3.
yes.
So.
Just so we had a plan. So I don't know, do you want me to go through all of them and then go back and, because we're looking for a vote?
I approve.
Do you want a formal vote on that?
We're gonna need a formal vote.
I'll move that we use ARPA money for Winter Street crossing.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay,
Motion passes.
Thank you. The second one is the DPW 3-phase power. And you've heard Kevin talk about this before. We want to get power in at the DPW so that we can start the process of recycling. That 3-phase power also includes the first stage, which is the baler. This second stage, it says state, but it's.
Yeah, should be stage.
Would be 22,000. So the total is 32.
Bless you.
And that's basically bringing in the power and then buying the baler.
The power and the baler, yep.
Make a motion to approve. The
Second.
3-phase power.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Third item, thank you. The third item is the second floor lighting electric for the renovation, which is not covered by the FEMA grant, and that would be $10,000. That's basically, we've got Josh Carter coming in to put when your table is moved, that you've got lighting over the table and you've got electric. Go ahead.
Right. Electrical underneath, electrical at the podium, electrical on the wall through the projector, and then the lighting improvements, similar to the EOC.
Taking those out, converting to LED.
Jeannie, are the old ones coming out?
What,
The old lights?
these? Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, that's not anything we talked about. It was,
I know for years we talked about, because these are very inefficient, actually. And, if we're going to be changing the light,
I
let's,
could
I
ask
think it'd be
Josh,
important to
The new ones are
figure it
LED.
all out so they're on proper
The new ones are
switches
LED.
and LEDs. So that, if you turn this
That'll-
projector on, you don't.
I'm sure that'll increase the price, but
I would think it probably
This is
would.
very dark over here.
I can ask.
Mm.
Okay.
Everybody else think that that's a good way to go to
I think, yeah, I definitely think taking a look at it. That's,
while we're at it.
Okay. So was there a motion on
Make a motion
I don't know if I
for
made
second
that.
floor lighting, electric for renovation not covered by FEMA.
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion?
We're gonna also ask,
Yeah, for
Josh.
LED, I'm gonna ask him and I'll come back to you,
Yep.
tell you what that is.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
Did you wanna, so then we've got all these other projects that we've got on the list. I am getting quotes for, we have had Tim Jubert in here, he's met with Tim and me. And the best place, and as you know, we've lost power a couple times now. So we really do need a generator at Town Hall, and his recommendation is that it be on the roof. There's no other place for it. No other safe place for it. So I'm getting quotes on that right now, but I know Pat asked something about the senior center insulation.
Yeah.
So where's that?
it's senior center,
Windows and insulation.
windows and
It's about the
insulation.
sixth down.
Um,
I don't see it.
I have a question though,
Oh,
with-
let's see.
back up on that other one. Town hall generator.
Mhm.
Before we do on the roof, read that report
Mhm.
on the roof.
Yeah.
Are we doing anything with that, with ARPA monies, with the replacing the roof? Before we put a generator up there?
That's a good question. That's 100. Before I went down that road, I want to have somebody else look at the roof.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, because
It's not
remember,
leaking, they should get holes in it. We're not leaking at this point, are we?
It's not raining.
well, it was
It
leaking.
was, it has.
It's
It has
been
in the past.
repaired
Before,
several
when it
times.
leaked, even drip drops, it was really obvious. All this food is new from the water damage.
Right,
that we
damaged
had.
all of it. Before we do the generator, which I'm in favor of, that we gotta look at that roof and get that repaired because,
They're gonna have to look structurally, they're gonna be able to hold that generator.
right.
right,
And I did ask Tim that if it could hold it. He said yes.
oh yeah.
I want it to be a pull cord generator, and the genie's gotta go up and start.
No, you don't wanna go up to the stairs.
You're
A
welcome.
little hole up here.
I've been up there.
I've been up there.
There you go.
So back to the roof quote. I think we were all a little shocked at that number. Tim and I were just going over the administrative budget the other day about maintenance, and I told him we should put 75,000. He thought I was kidding, and I was way into.
Yeah.
So in any event, relative to the roof, I'm gonna get another quote, have some other people look at it. I'm not gonna trust that, that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the generator, at this point, all I'm gonna do is get quotes.
Yeah.
Generator.
Mr. Scanlon.
So, one thing we may want to consider that we have the switch over and we have an outlet outside and we have a generator. That the idea is that to keep the servers and all that going and protect our data and all that, it might behoove us to actually go with solar and battery backup that could be, utilized. There's grants and all that that are available. It's lighter. And that way you could run the servers for a day. And meanwhile, take the generator down. Now I've experienced, getting the generator to the police station when we need it, remember, a couple times and going down there. But it plugs right in. We already paid for that. And then that way you'd have instant coverage, and the solar backup. Yeah, I do like solar too, and dogs. So, and it's a little bit lighter. And one of the problems with the generators is you have to go up there like once a week and check the oil. It vibrates, you have to put dampers. So, yeah. Oh, come on, we'll get you some boots. In the winter, on a windy day.
You could train Luke to go up first.
You can tell it's after 8:50 here.
It's after 9.
So, I think I'd like to look at possibly going solar with the battery backup. It's instant, it's green, and it's easier to maintain, and I think.
Again, well, the roof.
It's lighter than a generator.
It would be lighter. The only thing is that
Protects the sun on.
you might have enough power to power the servers and say other network equipment for phones, but when then you get into lights and other things that people need to be able to function.
And that's
eat,
why I was saying
or-
we'd have a generator with the backup, and when the police went down, we were headed up there.
What would it take to have a battery, solar battery up on the roof?
I have no idea.
To put up here to run the lights in the server?
But
I
whatever
have no
it
idea.
costs,
We'd have to
do
find
the
somebody
roof
to-
first.
We have to do the roof
You
first.
can't
but
install
Maybe.
solar panels all over the roof and then tear them up to put on a roof.
I can tell you over at Meredith, right, what we're doing solar on all the roofs of all the buildings.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Expensive?
I think the payback is, we have an energy committee who did all that work, and we just approved that, and like I said, it's going all on all town building rooftops.
For lights and backup? Wow.
Or you net metering. You're net metering.
See, okay, so and let me explain, there's a couple different things with net metering as opposed to battery backup.
No, I
Oh,
understand.
no,
Storage.
I know.
And
that.
I'm for
Yeah.
storage
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we're not, we don't want to do business with the electric company, these guys.
So it's something that will.
I think
We'll
we
look,
should,
we can look into that.
I think we
Something
should
we'll
look
look
into that in doing a storage, a solar that's gonna be compatible and storage enough to be considerate for our lights, our backup. If we were not so much as we lost power that everybody, it's like nothing happened, but you would at least be able to function.
Then we have,
Not that you would
we
have to
have
go
two things,
home
we
to-
have the backup generator, everything else, and we have the backup solar.
So I got the impression one of the reasons you wanted the update on ARPA was to talk about the senior center insulation.
No,
Oh,
so I just wanted to know where we were on ARPA funds, because we were saying we want to do ARPA funds for this, ARPA funds for that, and I couldn't remember how much ARPA money we were spending, so I kind of wanted an update on that. It's not necessarily for the
Gotcha.
windows and
And
insulation.
then you'll see on the other projects, the lamp posts, we had upped that to 50, assuming we were only gonna do 10. We would do less than. But I don't think that's something we need to make a decision on tonight. What we were looking for from the board were those 3 approvals, and you've done that, so.
But so the windows, the senior center windows and insulation, did you just put out a dot figure for that for,
I think we did, yeah. We didn't have any quotes to go by or anything at the time.
Jim?
Yeah, sorry.
So I am a little disappointed because I've been asked for this for 5 years now, before you were here too, so you're not. We have insulation of this much, that much, if that, most is bare, on a metal roof, on a 12, 14-foot ceiling in the senior center, that we have boilers and heat problems. Yes, the windows are important, but you can put plastic over the windows.
Yep.
But can you imagine the only thing between this room and the outside was a piece of sheet metal, the thickness of this piece of glass here, okay? And the energy prices. That is a huge priority, and it's not a big thing. You don't need carpenters, you don't need anything. These guys come up, will blow it in absolutely, very quickly and very
Yep.
easy. You could have it done next
Over
week.
the main hall.
I would like to get it done right away because we are facing some huge energy costs. And I'll guarantee you, look at the numbers, and I think you see them.
It's gonna make a big difference.
Yeah,
So should we get quotes?
I think
So
we should
with
get
over the-
14, 16 inches of insulation blown in.
Right.
And the other part of it is I'd like to have a catwalk run down the middle because the ceiling joists there are on 32 inches and they lay flat. That's real important to tell anybody that's coming up there. Because once you put that insulation down and somebody's wading through it to run wires,
Yep.
they're gonna think they're on 16s or 24s, but they're spaced that far apart
32
where the
inches.
average person can't step and they'll come through that ceiling. So.
So just
And
so.
I think even in Scott said, we volunteered, if you can't get it done, get the material, you put the bags and I'll climb up in the attic. I'm for blueberry pie. What's your favorite pie?
I'm a big lemon meringue guy, so.
So just so you know, the kitchen and the hallway and the bathrooms all have
Oh, yeah.
sufficient blown in
I've
insulation.
climbed through it.
It's the
main
main
hall.
hall that's in the hallway, which is the access to the main hall. That doesn't have any insulation in it at all.
Well, if we get some quotes and prices, we can vote on this next meeting and get it done.
I think you're gonna find contractors are pretty packed up right now.
Well, they're gonna get worse for insulation in the next 2 months, but I know Quality Insulation up in Meredith, all those guys are.
I have one question for Jeannie, if we're done for town administrative report.
Are we all set, Jeannie?
Yeah, if no one has any questions for me.
Hey, Selectman Constantine?
What's the School Street exterior door replacement?
Um,
Oh, that's out there.
Yeah, those two.
Nasty door right at the bottom of the stair.
$5,000. Are you gonna have the wooden ones like the front?
No. That, I think you just guessed at that.
Some of these, we just
That
plug
was
some
part of
numbers
it.
in.
So
That
are you
was
gonna
fun.
have the same kind, only like a metal? Or are you gonna have wooden?
We don't know the answer to that because that was part of the town hall assessment that those doors need to be looked at. So
They get a lot of use
Yeah.
now.
So,
A
yeah,
lot of
now they
use.
do. So
Put your
if you're
finger
looking at wooden,
Yes.
you're looking at 8,000 to 15,000.
no.
Okay. All right, so you want ready for my questions?
So, actually, I did have one other thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we got the grant, and I just wanted the board, it's matching grant, so for the, put my paperwork away, $9,800, we have to match, and I'd like to take that out of the capital reserve, island, park reserve, to match that grant, and this is for the historic, master plan, landscape plan for the island.
So moved.
Yes.
Second.
Motion and a second.
I don't know if it was a motion or not, so it's
Oh, yeah. Mr. Stanley.
So what are we getting for $19,000?
What do you mean?
Well,
You mean the plan?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so, I don't have it with me, but, it's, they're doing it, they're doing full topography, they're doing topo. There's a lot of community involvement. In the plant, at the end of it, we'll have, kind of a restoration for them.
for the island, for the stones too, and
The stones they're a separate project because we have to work with, although we've talked to DES, because the stones have been there pre-1965. We're gonna have an easier time getting that done. But that's a separate, there are like 3 phases to that whole project. One is the bridge, one is the granite blocks around the island, and the second is the island, island park restoration.
Our portion is half.
Yes.
yeah, well, I'm
9,000.
just, because, it's a lot of money for somebody to lay out some plans.
Oh, well.
I don't know what we're getting. That's
Yeah.
why I was, and the other part, did we, the state has the urban forester who does all of Fort Smith and all that. He came down and took a look. Could we have him involved too and have him make some suggestions?
It's gonna be a community involvement project. She's not gonna do this on her own. So it is, I think certainly, yes, he can be involved, but this is historic. This is like, working with, talking to her today, she's gonna be working with John Ciarillo. She's gonna reach out to, because it's gotta look at the history of the monuments that are on the island. So it's not just about plans. It's a big.
Well, what I'm concerned is when he came through, one of the big things was the type of trees that are there and what type of trees we should have going forward because of, they're just very familiar with urban forestry situations and the types of plants or bushes, shrubs and all that are proper in that area. And it's the state and he's free. 100% free.
Are you suggesting you want to have him do this and not her?
No, I don't think that this is the whole thing, but what's her background in forestry?
Well, this is not.
I'm wondering, I want to make sure that we do this right and that we have somebody proper. It's not, hey, we got 20 grand. I know somebody and do it. I think we want to make sure it's done with the proper people. I don't know who this is and what we're going to get. I don't understand it. So would there be any input on that allowed by the urban forest?
It would seem as though the Board of Selectmen would have to approve any plan that was presented. Pure and simple. I mean, it's our choice. Just because they produce some sort of a plan doesn't mean that we even have to accept it. Really. But this gets the ball rolling. We can still have the state forestry people come up and take a look at it.
Take a look at the plan.
See what they say and see how that jives with the plan. That would be my thought.
Yeah, and the conversation that I had with her today, and she very much understands that this is a community asset, it's a community jewel. Somebody from the outside is not gonna come in and tell us, you, what to do. It's very much the community has to be involved in it. You had in a prior meeting, someone, if not you, somebody else had expressed to me they want to make sure that there was involvement. Talked to today, there will be community sessions, very much input from everybody. So she's not going off and doing this.
Yeah, and like I said, one of those things, special trees and special environments, and that the resources for getting that done properly are right there from the state, and I want to make sure that, you know, somebody might say, hey, I love birch trees, let's put some birch trees in there, let's put other trees in there. There are specific forestry reasons and wetland reasons as to what type of plants go in there. I will submit that for their comment after it's done, or have that opportunity.
I'm done.
All set. We do need to review.
Wait, I wanted to ask her a question.
Selectman Constantino.
I got a text message from Juliet Harvey William and asked which selectman was going to be the delegate to, the voting delegate to the New Hampshire Municipal Legislative Policy Conference. And then she sent me a 2023-2024 Legislative Policy Conference email. And it said, and it does say the voting, who gets to vote, and it's and or. It's either the council and or board of selectmen and or, and the last one, it's town administrators. So I just want to make sure that you're going to the one person from each town gets the vote, and you have to register. And I just want to make sure that you're going to represent us.
Well, so I'm on the board of NHMA.
So can you still do that? So
Yes,
it's the,
but
it says the 2023-24 New Hampshire Legislative Policy Conference will be held on Friday, September 23rd at 9 a.m. at our office in Concord. This in-person event, each member municipality will be asked to appoint a voting delegate to cast its vote at this conference. Each member municipality, regardless of size, has one vote on all policy matters. In the absence of any designation by the select board, alderman, or council, New Hampshire Municipal will recognize one official as a municipality's voting delegate in the following order of priority. The mayor, chair, board of selectmen, council chair, or mayor, pro tem, vice or assistant mayor, council vice chair, or selectman, alderman, council, councilor, or city or town manager / town administrator, administrative assistant. New Hampshire bylaws require a 2/3 affirmative vote of those members present and voting for approval of any New Hampshire legislative policy or principle.
Can I appoint Gail?
It says administrative assistant, not me. So if you're on the board, can you still represent us or no? I don't know. So I'm asking.
yeah, I'm not sure why she's asking.
Well, so in her text, it said, Pat, do you know who will be our delegate for voting on NHMA policies? Hopefully you or John. I personally would not want to be down there. I'm not a policy person.
Well, to answer your question, yes, if you want me to, yes, I can.
Okay. So at this time, I would make a motion to let Jeannie be our delegate, unless somebody else wants to go down and spend the day voting on policies.
Jessamine, second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you very much.
Good, all set?
Yeah, I'm all set. That was the only thing. Yep.
We did table the minutes. We do need to review minutes, July 20, I believe that it's July 21.
Yeah.
And because of the Caleb Hill Road situation.
You run out of space or something? Still working?
Make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Make a motion to accept minutes of Thursday, July 21st as presented.
Second.
Discussion.
I got some changes. Make a motion to amend.
Okay.
As follows, let's see, I got the paragraphs here. And I put the timestamps in these.
One more.
No, Pat can't.
What?
So this is page 2 of 6.
I don't know what you're changing.
Oh,
There's
do I have another?
Third paragraph.
Page 3.
That was 3 of 6. Is the first. John, correct, the first 3 are on page 3 of 6. Okay.
Yeah, so.
After the words. Jeez, Johnny, can you spell my name right?
He must have copied it off that other one that was
Copied it
on,
off the sidewalk ordinance.
Yeah.
Yes.
on stand.
Unless anybody wants to table it, take them home, look at it, and vote on them again. Or what do we-
No, I don't think we can.
We have to, the July 21st, we have to get done because of the Caleb Hill Road. So I'll make a motion to accept the amendments to the minutes of July 21st, 2022. Oh, we had a motion, yes.
Throughout pages 3 and 4, wherever it references the cemetery, his name is spelled incorrectly. Ober.
Mr. Uber.
It's on the deed, Obukhov. There's more than one place. still on the 21st?
Yeah. I call the question.
Question has been called. All those in favor of approving the minutes of July 21st, 2020, please say aye.
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 I abstain.
That's 4 with 1 abstention. Those opposed? Opposition.
Well, I think we should have approved the amendments first.
That's true.
That's why I
Amendments to the
abstained.
motion.
So somebody could just make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of July 21st with amendments,
As
As
amended.
as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Is that an opposed or abstain?
Opposed.
I'm opposed.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, Gail.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
make a motion to accept the minutes for Thursday, August 4th as presented.
Second? Motion and a second. Any discussion?
I disapprove, based on the fact that there was no audio that night and that our selectmen's reports were not recorded in the minutes. And so I am opposed to approving the minutes.
I'd like to make an amendment to the minutes as follows. As you notice in the amendments, I couldn't find that amount. There was a response for a lease cost of unknown. I don't know what the amount was that was said. If the truck was need to be leased, as well as additional fuel costs and so on, you know.
I think we accepted their bid, but we didn't sign a contract yet.
No, we haven't. That's in 2 weeks.
But nonetheless, this was brought up at the meeting.
I would. I just gotta say, and Tim, you were there, I don't think we ever said the bid was renegotiated.
You said you met with him. I asked very specifically why we were voting on a bid other than what was placed on the table and offered to us. You stated that you met with Casella separately and they were not going to be, they were changing their bid to not include the increased multiplier for the leasing of the trucks, nor were they including, and I asked about the exceed of the $4 per gallon cost. So there was discussion that you had met with Casella on the bid.
We never said we were
No,
negotiating.
in their bid response, they had put down possible exceptions And we wanted clarification on those possible exceptions. And
So we put changed.
well, at the time that they responded to the bid, I think they weren't certain of their equipment availability. And to cover themselves, they put in there a possible exception would be that, and we asked, well, do you have the equipment or don't you? And basically the answer
So
was yes.
what I asked is what I'm saying, is what I asked at that table. And what I asked was, are we voting on the bids, these specific bids as written that were brought to us and submitted to us? And that's what I asked. I think everybody remembers me asking that.
I was gone that night, so.
Yeah. Anybody else contend that I didn't ask that?
No,
No, you asked.
Yeah.
And what was the answer?
What you just said, but it wasn't a
That-
renegotiation.
Right.
Well, I-
There's a difference.
It was a clarification.
So that, do you want to table it and we'll look at some stuff and maybe figure a better way to word this, to add some of the stuff in to match what you feel.
I think what he's getting at is that he asked the question, is this different from the bid that went out? And the difference in the bid that we're asking, and you folks met with Casella, and we're now voting on a bid that didn't have what was originally in there. And that's what he asked.
Well, I can say for myself, I looked at it as though the bid differences were the financial aspect. The financial
Well, I
aspect of
understand what I said is on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Regardless of, what
Right.
you did,
Right.
what I said.
I see.
And it goes along with, and that's the reason why I abstained from voting, is because, as stated before, I felt it was unfair and improper, the method for
You did
the
express that.
bid.
Right,
So,
and I do remember that, but what you said here, which is what I
Taking
have an
offense
issue
to is
with.
renegotiated.
Yeah, because you said Scanlon was told that the bid was renegotiated. Well, we never said that it was
No,
renegotiated.
okay, that's,
Yeah.
so,
Well, did you sit down and talk with them?
We did sit down and talk with them and ask them for clarification, because that was a issue that the board, I think, was.
I recall too that I thought that we were asked to do that.
Yeah, we were.
The board asked you to do that?
I think it was to clarify
Yes.
the lease.
Right.
And they were able to figure out between that point and August 4th that they would have the equipment, they would not need to lease a vehicle.
So before the 4th, we asked them to meet with Casella?
When we had, excuse me, when we had reviewed the bids, there were questions about that leasing, because it was $9,000. I believe it was a $9,000 per month lease cost.
we never reviewed the bids.
Right. We never reviewed the bids.
We
You did
opened
at
the
the
bids and
opening,
had
right?
packets, and we were given the packets.
And
Bernard had the
And the
beautiful
bids
color
went
one.
directly to Tim and Jeannie.
No,
We didn't talk about the
Yeah,
bids.
you got them in emails. You got them several
We
times.
did, and the
Several.
hard copy.
But,
Yeah.
so what meeting did we say to you, would you get this in clarification?
I thought we were reviewing the minutes. I don't know.
Well, this is part of what he's saying. What part of that did the board say to you, we need this to be clarified? What prompted you to go to Casella?
The board asked us to.
Okay, what meeting did the board ask you to do?
I would-
I'm just asking a question.
I understand that, but.
Okay,
But I feel like.
I don't
we
mean
had-
any disrespect
No, I
by it, I'm
understand
just
that,
really
but I
asking
feel-
a question.
but I feel like we had this conversation the last meeting.
No, we asked that at the last meeting. I asked them, and I stated that I felt uncomfortable with this. We asked if there was a deadline, specifically, was there a deadline? I said, yes, we have to vote on this tonight. We have to vote on this now. And I said I was uncomfortable in that, the terms of the bid, and that we were voting on something that was not submitted to me. I thought we were voting on the bids that we had one from the Pinard and one from Casella. That's what I thought we were voting on. That's what we were submitting. I never had any conversations, wasn't discussed with us or anything. I was told that we had to vote on that night, and I couldn't vote on it. So if you want to use a different word than renegotiated, was changed, altered, anything else, but that was not the bid that was before us and submitted to us that we're voting on. I think, and it was clear you did, or somebody stated that yes, on the final contract, it would read different than the bid, that it wouldn't be the same numbers or the same information.
In fact, all of your contracts have had penalties for service lapses. I would also say if you're uncomfortable with a particular vendor, require the performance bond. I think their price was 1% of the contract
I'm just
value.
saying, this is what I brought up because I didn't feel comfortable in voting. And if anybody wants to know why I abstained from voting, it would be important that they would know my thoughts behind it, that I didn't just say, hey, I don't care. It was more, I don't want to participate in that process.
Yeah, because we were certainly under the impression that we were asked to have this meeting because Kevin and Jeannie and myself who met with them, and I think they have 2 or 3 representatives present, I think.
Prior to our meeting?
Well, when we were getting the clarification on their bid, asking questions.
We never met and authorized anybody, and there was no direction from the Board of Selectmen to create a meeting with the finance officer, or any other employees to discuss this bid. I mean, we were supposed to be discussing us as selectmen here at the board, and it's not just handed to us with no ample time. I thought we were voting on the bid that was submitted, not something that had been altered, or that the person who submitted the bid actually changed their bid before we voted on it. Because that was not what we were voting on, was the bid that I was given. We're voting on one that was changed.
I have a question.
Mr. Pryor.
What is the tired?
Let's speak up out.
I'm tired. The lease amount, wasn't that an add-on, an additional cost above and beyond the total cost of the contract? So if the contract, just for simple math, was $100,000, and for the month of July, they had to lease a truck because something happened to it, there would be $9,000 additional that we would be billed for above and beyond whatever the cost of the contract for the month of July was. Is that a fair?
I didn't understand it to be that. I understood it to be.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
We're discussing a motion, and what I stated, what I didn't state. I think it would probably be better if we table this, and then see if there's a better way to include what I had stated, and in a way that instead of rehashing the whole contract again, because it's already done. So I'm going to make a motion to table.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none, those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? Nay. Minutes are tabled. Any new business?
I just want to make sure that the board has signed the manifest that came up for the Island concerts. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jessamine.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, we're good.